Hello and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. As always, my name is Jeff, and as always, his name is Paul.
Yes, it is. His name is Paul. No, my name is Paul. Your name is Jeff.
No,
that's
my
not
name
as
is
always.
Jeff.
Confused me already, mate.
I'm sure people know who we are by now.
Yes.
So we're back with Meet the Whovians 4 Part 2, following Meet the Whovians 4 Part 1, which was last week, or some
just a
weeks
numbers
ago,
game.
Depending on when you're listening to this episode. We're chatting to Dom, who's at Dom Torhu. We're chatting to Fraser, who's at Felix Fraser, and we're chatting to Mestor the Magnificent, aka Peter, who's at the Mestor. So this week we're talking about Doctor Who books. We're talking about meeting doctors, and we're talking about figures, merch, and other such associated things. Now this is quite a long episode, and there's a lot of talk about Target and Virgin New Adventures books with Mestor and and Paul. Sorry, and I mostly sit there and
days.
Yeah,
about
you did.
That stuff.
Yeah. And I don't
Jeff
really add
has
anything.
to edit it down into just 8 hours of content.
Yeah. So
otherwise
sit
we
down.
have to pay more on our podcast platform subscription.
Yeah. I think we exceeded the limit this month.
Exceeded your limits.
So settle down and get tucked in and enjoy Meet the Whovians. Have you read much Doctor Who books, much fiction, Dom?
I finished reading the Witchfinder's Target novel after it took me so long to read it because I just kept forgetting I added it for some reason. Yeah, I know. I'm just really bad at reading because I read so much for uni that in the evening I just go nope, I can't read right now. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
But I ended up finishing it recently. Amazing. And yeah. And I read that. I read the Maze of Doom.
Yeah.
Have I read some? I think I've got a few targets, but I haven't read them yet. I just got them because I was in the UK in the summer, so I went to Forbidden Planet and just went like, okay, you're coming with me.
Take the shelf.
Cleared the shelf. Yeah, cleared the
Sweep the shelf.
Yep.
Did you like Maze of Doom?
I did. But same as the Witchfinders, took me a while to read it, but all the Tasman bits were like, mwah.
Yes, there was some good stuff in there. Did you read Secret in Vault 13, which was the not prequel, but the
it's the same author, I
other
think,
book
right?
in the Yes, it ended with a cliffhanger that led into Maze of Doom. So I would recommend that if you haven't read it. Yeah,
I'm gonna need to read it.
Yeah,
gonna take forever to read it.
It was really good. Do you know I have a fairly large pile of books, not so much novel stuff, but like film reference books and comics and stuff like that, and it's growing. And then some stuff will take me ages. In fact, I looked at my shelf the other day, and on my little shelf
was it like bending in the middle, like a bowed shape?
No, it's actually on the floor, this shelf, so it's not it's supported, but I looked at the shelf and I've got my 13th Doctor figure there, my Yaz, and a Scarlet Witch, and then I saw the Walking Dead universe, and I thought, I got that for my birthday last year and I haven't read it yet. So I need to dig that. I'm going to wait for the current series to finish, I think, and then I'll go back through it all. But yes, I sometimes get stuff, and it's not so much taking a long time to read the actual thing, it's just getting round to it, because other stuff gets added and the pile grows. But the 13th Doctor books have been really good. If you haven't read At Childhood's End, then
you need to read that.
You read that, didn't you, as well, Paul? It's really, really good. It's been, I guess, contradicted by the show, but that doesn't really matter anymore.
Canon doesn't exist. It's fine.
Exactly.
No, and when it's as good as it is, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
And they did. What was it? What was the one that we read, Paul, that we were going to talk about on a podcast? The one, the Good Doctor.
Oh yes, by Juno Dawes. Juno.
Yes, who did Redacted.
Juno. Oh my god. I'm gonna read.
So that's worth reading, and they did Combat Magics, which was written by Steve Cole, who we talked to on the podcast, and Una McCormack did another one, which name has completely escaped me, but all of the books have been really good.
Juno Dawson, not Juno Dawes. Juno Dawson, that's it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, she did Redacted as well. Yeah, but Paul, you're a big Target fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was always a good reader, so I've got tons of Target novels. I still think the Target novels are the best Doctor Who fiction novels out there. Still, they're really good. But they've also got the Virgin New Adventures. Some of those are quite good. And the Eighth Doctor stories and the past Doctor stories. Actually, do you know what? No, Jeff, you're right. They're all good. There you go. But then it's like the big finish, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like some are better than others, and some maybe speak to you better than others, and some have storylines that you enjoy more than others. So it's just part of the fun of the whole thing, I think.
You know what? Any of it is good because it's Doctor Who. And like,
that's just a default position.
I'd be amazed if I was to watch or read or listen to something and be like, that was awful, because there'd be something in it to enjoy.
That's a beautiful outlook on life, I think, my friend.
I just feel that's inherent because it's something I like. You know, I'd have to just go wildly off the rails to not entertain me.
Yeah.
You know.
Killer Moon. Excuse me.
Kill the. Right. Okay. we're gonna go off track here. We're going.
Sorry.
Sleep No More.
I don't know what happened there, mate.
Is an underrated meta masterpiece.
Yeah, sure. We're going to have this one out, actually, Jeff. We should do this because we did do this. We did do a kind of in the red corner, in the blue corner thing, didn't we? What do we call? I forgot what it was now. But Kill the Moon. Jeff was for it, which is great, and I was not for it because it is one episode of Doctor Who that, you know, if I never saw it again in life, it would be too soon. But it doesn't spoil my enjoyment of Doctor Who if there's an episode that I just don't enjoy. It really doesn't, you know, because I'm old enough to kind of just get on with it. You know, it's like, well, there'll be another one.
Yeah,
you know, it's written by so many different people, produced and directed and everything, and you know, it's always changed, but it will always be, you know, that level, the benchmark for me is always going to be high. Sometimes, very infrequently for me, it will dip below it. But again, it's just personal preference. You know, that was just a story I didn't like, along with Sleep No More.
Did you listen to that podcast, Dom? Because we went into it and I was like, Kill the Moon is brilliant. The moon is an egg, so what? We're watching a show about a travelling space, phone boot box thing. And then Paul was going on and on with his complaints about it. And by the end of it, I was like, I don't know if I like it anymore. Yeah, he did.
And then I felt really bad. I thought, oh no, I've seen the light go out of his eyes. That innocent childlike joy that Jeff carries around him, which brightens up all our days, had diminished somewhat. And I felt awful. I felt absolutely terrible for that.
Better finish this podcast now.
I don't think I listened to that one, but I'm gonna have to go back to
it. If you wanna, have you ever seen that Simpsons episode where Ralph Wiggum gives Lisa a card and it says "I choose you" on it, and she rips it in half or something, and then it happens.
That's heartbreaking. And describing it.
And it gets caught on camera, and then Bart plays it back in slow motion, and he says, "At this moment, you can see Ralph's heart break," and Ralph kind of goes, "Oh, no," like this. You could listen to that Kill the Moon podcast and probably hear my soul get crushed. Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to it and tell you exactly like the time when that moment happened.
Yeah. Typical of you there, Jeff. Just to plug an episode of our own podcast within an episode of our own podcast with a lovely guest who's literally all the way from Canada.
Yeah. I've taken the Sleep No More influence and gone meta. Yeah. So, Dom, what does your Doctor Who collection consist of? What goodies do you have?
I've got my 13th Doctor cosplay.
Of course.
My Sonic.
Oh yeah,
nice.
I've got a 13 figurine. I've got the TARDIS. I've got a Pating.
You got a Pating.
It's a Christmas
Look at him
tree
there.
ornament.
Oh, the fun.
It's a little Pating right there.
Oh.
He's going to be on my Christmas tree in a few weeks, months. But right now he's in my bedroom because he can't be there. And yeah, that's my main. I mean, I've got loads of prints, a few T-shirts, and books, and photo ops.
You got quite a cool hoodie on there tonight as well. Yeah, we're coming to that. We're coming to that. Is it quite a small collection you've got there? So you're at uni, aren't you? So this is not home.
Oh, it's home. It's my apartment. Like I don't live at my dad's place anymore, but yeah, it's my own rented place.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah. Right. Yeah. So Paul, you've got a little bit of a collection, haven't you, of stuff?
Yeah, I have. Books and, it is mostly books. They're not all Doctor Who books, but there's a lot of them there. There you go. That's mostly my thing. And there's this bunch of stuff behind me there, and there's DVDs down there, and I think there's a bunch of stuff over there as well. Yeah, there you go. Wow. In amongst all the crap.
That is a collection.
I'm very old though, Jeff. I've had 50 years to collect all that, mate.
That's true, yeah.
That's without bleeding time travel. Long years.
I view stuff as like figures and things like that.
I don't bother with that stuff.
CDs don't count. No,
CDs
I sent him a Jodie figure, Dom, and his daughter Freya nicked it. Yeah.
She did though. She gets more joy out of it than I do. So it's gone to a really good home. To be honest, mate, if it was just me, I would just use it to prop up my computer screen down here or something. That's what happens to when people give me toy figures. They just line up down here and they support they're like columns, that support all the stuff in front of me here. That's what they do, which seems a little bit cruel in some way. I can hear them screaming as the stress of the computer screen weighs on their shoulders, their tiny little shoulders. That patina, he wouldn't stand a chance. Yeah, silent screams.
Which Sonic is it you've got, Dom? Is it the one that lights up and turns and
it's right there.
All of that?
Yep, it's the American one.
Yo, look at that. It's got a little light on it and everything. That's amazing, that, isn't it? Yeah. I love that.
That's really good.
Actually, I would get myself a Sonic. I do need a Sonic. Because it's just one of those things, when I'm doing like, business calls and stuff like that, I just have a Sonic and just go zap, zap, zap with people. Yeah. And they can they can say things like, "What's that noise?" What noise? I'll be like, "I don't hear any noise." What's that noise? I don't hear any noise. Are you feeling okay? Perhaps you should give me that thing a little bit cheaper than you're trying to sell it to me for. That sort of stuff. Yeah. Could be a good negotiation tool somehow. It
could be, yeah. It could be your USP.
Or they might say to me, "Paul, have you got a Doctor Who Sonic?" I went, yeah.
But then you see that could go either way. They could say that's really cool.
That has happened to me actually in unexpected business situations where people say, you're a Doctor Who fan, are you? Yeah. It's me too, mate. Yeah, I've been watching it since Tom Baker. I went, what, really? And actually one guy said to me the other day, this just last week, I was at an awards ceremony thing, and we're having a few drinks, and we're kind of talking about Doctor Who, and this guy I'd known for ages, never any idea. He suddenly says to me, "So, Paul," I went, "Yeah." He goes, "John Leeson or David Brearley?" I went, "Oh my God, only a fan would know things like that." And I said, "Well, it's John Leeson, obviously, all the time. But that's not to, denigrate David Brearley by any..." And we just got into that whole conversation about different K9 voices and, which was the best K9 episode and how many K9s were there and all that sort of stuff. And you think, oh my God, I'm looking at you in a different light, my friend. You have elevated.
Yeah.
These secret Doctor Who fans that just step out of nowhere.
Yeah. What's it like where you are, Dom, with friends and Doctor Who? Do your friends watch it, or you sort of quite on your own with it?
Kind of on my own. Around 2012, 2013, because of the 50th, like some of my friends kind of got into the show. Like at the time when Tumblr was like at its peak, I had friends on Tumblr that were from home.
Yeah.
So they kind of all got into the show, and then they kind of slowly stopped watching when Peter became the Doctor. Just not because it was Peter, but because like life happened, I guess.
But I moved on.
Yeah.
And then I got to uni, and actually during my master's degree, I found out that a few of my colleagues were fans of the show, but also kind of jumped out of the boat. I guess, but I tried to get my friends into it. I tried to get my family into it. My dad introduced me to Star Wars when I was like 3, so I was like, you like sci-fi, maybe that's gonna work, but nah, you just can't do it. It's
can't
really
do Doctor Who, no?
Did you disown them at that point? Like
I should.
You should do, yeah.
It's divorced parents.
My kids. Well, one of the twins is sort of vaguely interested, but I think maybe Ethan was feeling the stress of I need somewhere to live, because over the last couple of weeks he said, "Dad, can I watch Avatar with you, and can I watch a Doctor Who with you?" Because the constant threat. If you don't like these things, you're out.
Oh.
You like DC? Leave. This is a Marvel house.
So that's awful, Jeff. Your kids are going to grow up like not experiencing the joys of Batman and Superman. They're just going to be totally focused on Iron Man and Scarlet Witch, probably more than anything. He's got a real Scarlet Witch obsession.
They won't know that anything else exists.
That's
and then one
terrible.
Day they'll go,
terrible.
I've discovered
You're a controlling father.
But when you're sort of, because when it was, when it came back with Eccleston and Tennant and stuff, my friends at college and stuff, they watched. But then, like you said, Dom, kind of they drifted over time and stuff, and then, I don't really know anyone who watches it, like in the real world. Yeah. But that's why meeting Paul and you and other people online is so important.
Online is still the real world.
Well, I was going to say Paul and I've met, and but when you've got something that you love that much, and I think it's really important to share it with people and talk about it, and even if you're not in the same physical space, it doesn't really matter. It's still it means a lot, I think, really.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful.
Now, thanks. I'm on a roll with it tonight, aren't I? Yeah. So, Dom, I know that you came over to you came to the UK earlier in the year, didn't you?
Yes.
To an event that I was also at as well.
What was this?
And this was London Film and ComicCon when you you said I can't come. I got to do some stuff at home with the family. Yeah. And then your family cleared off and left you at home on your own. Yeah. So I phoned him, Dom, and he said, "Have you met her?" I went, "Yeah, just done it." And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm at home on my own. Everyone's gone out." And I said, "You could have been here. You could have met her as well."
Could have done it. But there you go. Story of my life, that is, Jeff. Anyways, enough about me. Dom.
We'll fix it. So tell us, Dom. Yeah, tell us about your meetings with doctors and the adventures you've had, because you go to quite a few cons. Don't you? You're not adverse to traveling for stuff, are you?
No, but I mean, usually I go to cons like closer to home. Like I go to Montreal ComicCon. I've been going since, what was it, 2012? Yeah, I think maybe 2011.
Good 10 years. Then. See, I can do those sort of sums.
Yeah.
Yep, that's easy for me. Yeah.
And I went to Fan Expo in Toronto a few times as well. So yeah, it's like my second home, Comic-Con,
Is that?
But in terms of doctors I've met, I met David. David's the first doctor I met in 2017 at Montreal Comic-Con.
Awesome.
That was great because at the time that was like a week or two before Jodie got announced, so like he was still my doctor in my head at that time, and like to this day he's still one of my favorite actors. So when he got announced like in March or April, and the con is in July, but like he got announced really early on, and I just burst out crying and cried for like half an hour after he got announced. I was like I was at my dad's place at the time, and I just went up to like, "Dad, I'm gonna meet David Tennant!" Crying my eyes out. That was great. And then after that, I went to New York Comic Con, like I said, and David was there again, and Matt Smith was there, and Alex Kingston was there as well. So I had a photo up with the three of them, and it was amazing. And then after that, I saw the episode with Jodie. It was like, it was an insane day.
Was it? What's the atmosphere like at those conventions over there? Then are they kind of mad?
So, but for people listening, base it around like what it was like at the London event, because that was pretty busy, wasn't it? So. Is it like 10 times that when you go to New York or something?
I'm just going to let my cat out.
Your cat's off again, yeah.
Okay.
Let me out! I want to go out now.
You've thrown me at the wall. I want to go out.
I mean, I only went to New York Comic Con for a single day. I just got really lucky, booked a ticket for the Sunday, not knowing anything of that was going to happen, so I just got really lucky. But so I couldn't really walk all of the floor, but I mean, I don't know on how many buildings that thing is. It's just insane. I haven't seen half of it, and I know that. It's insane. And I think in terms of the amount of attendees London ComicCon gets, I think it's closer to Montreal maybe, because even Toronto's a bit bigger than the Montreal convention. But maybe London's a bit bigger, but the space is smaller. And I think that is a problem that needs to be dealt with. I mean, that was the case in February. I don't know if it's always like that, but to me, the space was way too small for people. But
it's. Oh, yeah, sorry, carry on. It was because it's quite interesting because I've been to the MCM Comic-Con a couple of times in London. That's at the Excel Centre, which is where they held the Doctor Who 50th
That's
celebration.
Quite a decent size, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big venue, and they use kind of you've got the main hall corridor type thing, and then there's sort of effectively rooms on either side. And they use like 3 rooms on either side, opposite each other, so it's a massive space. And then London Film and Comic-Con was not as big a footprint as that.
Was it Earls Court? They had that.
Olympia.
Was it Earls Court? Olympia, yeah. And what's interesting is that MCM is, in my experience, bigger on things like displays. Like they had Black Panther costumes or Thor costumes one year, or they have like a Harry Potter Lego thing or the Batmobile or something like that. But their meet and greets and stuff is pretty minimal, both in terms of the numbers and also the kind of size of people. Whereas it's the opposite at London Film and Comic-Con. Much more guests and it's much bigger for that kind of thing, and the people they get, like Cumberbatch just being there and stuff like that. It's really good for that. So they're both good for different things, I think, really. But yeah, the London one was a good event. So was that you came over especially for that, didn't you? In February.
I did that. And I wasn't going to, because the thing with meeting Jodie is I started off 2022 telling myself this year I'm meeting Jodie. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's happening. And I kind of convinced myself in saying that she was going to be at Montreal Comic Con. I was like, I think she hadn't been announced to LCC at that point yet. But when she got announced at London Comic Con, I was like, she's going to be here this summer. It's fine. And then she showed up to the Brits Awards pregnant. I was like, she's not coming to Montreal this summer. So I was like, okay. And I knew I had a bunch of group of friends going, one friend there, another friend here, 2 friends going together. And a few of them were trying to convince me to go, and I was like, oh no, but uni and COVID. But then by the Brits Awards time, COVID was getting better here, and the rules were kind of slowly going away.
A bit relaxed.
Yeah. So I during the Brits, everyone was freaking out on Twitter. I was like, oh my god, I think I need to book this. So I just texted one of my friends had offered for me to stay at her place if I changed my mind, and I just texted her so if I decide to go to the con, is it still okay if I stay at your place? She was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, okay. So I went on the Air Canada website, looked at the flights. The flights weren't too bad, and then I opened the London Comic Con website. I was like, okay, this is happening. Before I booked everything, I texted my dad. It's like, Dad, am I a bad person for going to London because I want to meet Jodie because she won't be in Montreal this summer? And he was like, you're vaxxed, you're an adult, you can do whatever you want.
Make your own mind up now. Yeah.
I mean,
do you think you're a bad person for doing this?
Not anymore. At the time, I was just freaking.
There you go. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I was just freaking out because my stepmom was is a nurse, and she was doing the jabs for COVID. Okay. So I had her in mind all this time, and I was like, oh my god, am I a bad person? Am I gonna cause chaos because I'm going to another country to meet an actress? and that night, I booked a ticket to go see Spider-Man that night without knowing, a week in advance, because the cinemas were reopening on that day. So I went to see Spider-Man, and then I just couldn't focus on the film. And then when I got back here...
You're just thinking about meeting Jodie.
Yeah, just like halfway through the movie, I was just like, oh no, maybe she's gonna hate me because I came all this way to meet her. I was completely panicking during the movie. It was great.
Oh my goodness.
But I came back here. I FaceTimed my dad and my stepmom, and my stepmom was like, you know what? You've been careful for like 2 years. We've worked really hard at uni. You know, you got your master's in 2 years. Like, go and have fun. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that.
Quite right.
So now I don't
Great
feel bad.
advice.
Yeah, and I didn't get COVID there, so you know,
that's a bonus.
I was safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because a few people did, didn't they?
Yeah.
I saw someone tweeted after it. You know, we caught it, and you know, check yourself and stuff. And I thought, oh, and actually, I think I felt a little bit under the weather a day or two after, and when was it? End of February, and I'd had it at the end of January because one of my twins caught it, and then I ended up with it, and I thought, oh God, I haven't got it again, have I?
But it was just because you weren't sure if you were going to be able to go, were you?
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, that's right.
Worried about that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, because we had a run of almost 3 months of illness from the beginning of the year, where Ella got COVID, and then it hit me. And then my wife got it, so that was like 3 weeks where you know we somebody had it, and in the second week of that, Ella just had insane fevers of like 40 degrees for days, and we were taking her to the hospital to be checked, and I couldn't go in because I had COVID. I shouldn't have left the house, but my wife doesn't drive, and I was like, you know, we have no choice. You know, we have to do this. Yeah. And then then everyone kind of got a bit better, and then we thought, well, we'll reward the kids with a trip to London. We've had 3 weeks locked at home, kind of thing. We went up to London. We went to the Disney store. Phoebe was being really weird, and we were like, "Oh dear, what's happening here?" She just doesn't seem to like this. So she had a bit of a paddy. So we were like, "Right, let's just go home. It's not working." And then she puked all over the back of my seat in the car, and we were like, "Brilliant! Thank God it wasn't all over Mickey."
Oh my God.
So we went home, and then she was off nursery for a few days, and then Ella got ill the week after with the same thing, and then Ethan got it, so that was like 3 weeks of illness, and then we sort of thought we were better. Then Phoebe woke up one morning, couldn't open her eyes because she had conjunctivitis, gunk all over the place, and we were like, brilliant. So she had to have drops, and then was off nursery for a bit, and then Ella got it, and then you know, so we just, do you remember, Paul?
I do remember you going through this, actually, mate. Yeah, I do.
It was so bad, and I had COVID, and I thought it was dangerously close to, you know, ComicCon, and you know, I might not be able to go because of, you know, the 10 days and stuff.
And we were filming something at the time as well, weren't we? I think, was that February? That wasn't it?
We did. It was early February, wasn't it? We did Triumph, and I only tested myself when I got back because
you didn't think you were going to make that either at one point. I don't think.
Yeah,
it's a bit touch and go.
The kids,
but that's how disruptive the whole COVID thing has been, isn't it? Because, you know, a lot of that is just being reintroduced back to people with like ordinary diseases, and because we'd all been sitting at home, you know, in our little bubbles and everything, suddenly we get hit by the stuff that we probably wouldn't have affected us previously. I don't know. I'm no expert on the immune system. I'm not going to lie, but I suspect there was a lot of that going on. Yeah, I ain't a doctor or nothing.
Because you know, my kids, particularly Ella, the younger twin, we wrote a list of times in the last 2 years that she's been poorly, and the list was like 20 to 30 times: chest infections, ear infections, fevers, all this sort of stuff. The others don't really get it, but you know, I think it's an immune system thing. You know, they were locked at home for so long, and anything, you know, Phoebe will get a sniffle, but it'll wipe Ella out, and I definitely think there's something in it. You know, the merest hint of something now.
Yeah, if your immune system, because you need to be exposed to viruses and things, don't you, for your body to build up an immunity that continues. So, anyway, this is a Doctor Who podcast, not the medical journal. 2022.
I'll probably cut that bit about my family's medical history.
I'm just going to shut this window because it's absolutely blowing a gale. That is just kind of blowing open. There we go. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
I can feel it coming through.
Dom, tell us about when you met Jodie.
Yeah, so what happened then when you did meet her?
absolute panic.
Dom's squeeze in silence.
It really was a proper squeeze. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow. What a moment that was.
Was it?
I mean, yeah. And for some reason, I thought I would be really emotional when I got to the con. Like, I imagined myself crying in front of her autograph table from afar, just seeing her, and that didn't happen. Like, it was really cool for some reason. But I mean, it was great. I think my first photo op that weekend was a solo with Mandip, and then my duo with the two of them. So, no, was it? Wow, I can't remember. No,
I don't know.
Anyway, that's not important. But anyway, like, I just, I asked her to hug me when we had our like solo photo op, and like she did. That was like the best hug ever. And the great thing about Jodie is that like she clearly takes the time to make you feel special in that moment, and like telling you look awesome in your costume, whatever it is that you're wearing. It's just like I'm assuming that's a constant, from what I'm hearing and seeing on Twitter. It's not just me. I think it's all of us, and it's amazing because it's really, it's tiring to do a con like that, and especially like considering she was pregnant at the time. I don't know how she did it. Yeah. Like, honestly, she's a trooper. Amazing. But
she had a busy day there, didn't she?
Oh my god, it was insane. And and I got really lucky because one of my friends from home was trying to convince me before I decided to go to the con. She was trying to convince me to go because she wanted to get me a diamond pass, and then they were sold out when I decided to go. So she got me another photo up with Jodie. So I got two.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and that was great.
So you saw her twice, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it was like all back to back because I just
I
was
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I know she was so sweet, and I can't believe I was able to form a complete sentence in front of her. That honestly amazes me to this day because I don't know how I did that.
Yeah,
and it like usually I forget how to speak in front of people I admire like that. So
I did.
I'm proud of myself.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did pretty well there. Yeah, it's like when we interviewed Colin Baker. Yeah. And Jeff says to me, Paul, you can do the introduction. I thought, I could do the introduction. And all my words just tumbled out and none of them made sense. It was so we got Colin to do the introduction in the end.
Yeah, Colin did it.
I need to finish to listen to that one. I started it yesterday.
Oh, yes, you do. It's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, it was really good. But yeah, meeting Jodie was, it's kind of want to downplay it a little bit to not seem too kind of
no, sell it, Jeff, sell it. Go on. Tell us all about it. What were you feeling when you met? Because I think, Dom, you said it there. It's like, it's you do feel special, right? When you're she makes you feel special, and she makes everyone feel special.
Jodie Whittaker really making you feel special is something. It is the best.
Yeah, and do you know what? A lot of us sometimes maybe need that as well, just to kind of feel good about ourselves, especially coming in out of lockdowns and COVIDs and all kinds of traumas and things. Nobody came out of that with 100%. Sort of with their mental health at 100%. It all affected us in different ways, and for someone to sort of take a kind of responsibility while you're in their space to make you feel better and feel loved and feel special. I mean, that is something that is that's empathy and compassion and everything, all that you need really, and love. Why else would you fly all the way from Montreal to London and not get that? That's totally something. Because if you did that and they just tell you to piss off, it's not the same, is it, really? It's not the same experience.
No,
there's another one, really, gives you a pen, what's the name again? And they spell it incorrectly. You take a selfie with them and they're clearly not in the mood. Whatever. That would be me, by the way. This is why I don't do that. I could go out and do conventions and sign people's DVDs. I'd probably get arrested.
You could do,
for pretending to be someone I'm not. But
Paul, I've told you before, they don't want
you to do let me write on their DVDs, Jeff. I've got a big silver felt tip pen and everything. It's permanent. It's a permanent marker. You can't get it off now, no matter how many times you wash. And looking at you probably don't wash anyway, do you? That'd be me. They would be dragging me away. Get out. It's embarrassing now, Paul. Go.
When the queue started for to go meet Jodie, it's sort of just like, okay, well, you know, go queue now and stuff. And then sort of to get closer, and you think, oh, she's just in that little.
Was your heart going a flutter?
Well, yeah, and then you tell us about how you felt, Dom, but go around the corner and then saw Jodie, and I was like, oh my god, you know, she's there, it's the doctor, and you know, it's something quite, you know, special. It's like being, you know, on a much smaller scale, but it's like being at a concert, you know, when you know, someone comes out on stage or something, you know, and he's, oh my god, you know, it's actually them. And yeah, she made everyone feel really special. You know, she complimented my t-shirt and things, and you know, we just, you know, it's only very brief, isn't it? But you know, it's just it just meant, you know, a lot.
It's a lifetime memory though, isn't it?
Yeah,
easy, yeah. And yeah, it was wonderful. And you know, I'll be honest, when other people went to meet her in, when was it, August or something? It was not
early
that
September.
Long ago, was it? There was another. That's right. Yeah, I think I texted you, didn't I, Paul? I said, well, I am actually quite jealous, but you know, people have gone again, and then of course she's doing a con next week, isn't it? Again, and
it's come around a bit quick.
Are you guys going?
Yeah, it has, and I bought tickets to go see Bono do his book tour in London, and it's the same week, and I can't afford to go to Jodie as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'll have to miss it. But the you know, hopefully next year, you know, there might be another opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, this Bono tour is a one.
Yeah.
You know, it's a once in a lifetime thing as well.
Yeah.
You know, in fairness, so I'm very excited about that. But I couldn't. I'm always quite conscious of, like with my work, not being away for too many evenings of a week or you know, weekends and stuff like that because of my kids, and to be out for an evening, you know, for Bono, and then be like, oh yeah, I'm going out all day Saturday to see Jodie again. I couldn't really do it. Sense. So no, I'm not going, unfortunately. But what's your next con adventure?
I guess it's gonna be maybe Toronto ComicCon in March. I mean, I'm now part of the Doctor Who Society of Canada, so I'm a volunteer with them.
Oh wow!
So I did.
Well done, Dom. Well done.
Thanks.
Excellent.
So I did Fan Expo in Toronto in August. So now I guess if they need people, I'm gonna go in March if I can afford to go. Yeah.
So would you be like a steward there, helping the guests, you know, the talent around and stuff like that? Is that what it would
no,
be?
actually, the Doctor Society is kind of a charity, and they have they get donations for children's hospitals in Canada. So they have they can take photos with. We've got a TARDIS, Daleks, all of us in cosplay. We've got escape rooms as well. I hosted my first escape room this summer, and I'd never done an escape room before, so that was interesting.
I love an escape room. Yeah. I did the Doctor Who one for my birthday a couple of years ago. It was really good.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my god.
So what else is there? Yeah. What else is there then that you're doing with the volunteering?
That's pretty much that. I only did it once, so yeah. It was my first time. Like I keep seeing them every year when I go to Montreal Comic Con, and then this year I was like, I should really look into this. That looks fun.
Yes, that looks good.
That looks good.
That's really good.
So I did that, and then went to Toronto with them, and so it's mostly taking pictures with attendees and hosting the escape rooms and that kind of stuff. So no, it's fun. So if all goes according to plan, I'm gonna go there, and you know, if Jodie could be there, that would be nice. If I'm sending that into the universe, maybe that's gonna work.
Start manifesting now.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the big question, Dom, is are you going to be going to the event she's doing in the States? She's going to Gallifrey Galley 1, isn't she?
She is, and I wanted to go, and I decided not to go before she was announced.
Are you mad?
I'm mad at myself right now, but it's just like with money, and I'm going on an internship in the UK next fall, and I just I was a bit tight, and my friends from the UK are going to Gallifrey 1 in 2024, so I thought, I'm
right.
If I go, I want to do it with my friends rather than doing it on my own.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait an extra year, and I hate myself for not going. Not gonna lie, but, I need to be an adult.
Yeah.
Well, there's some inner conflict going on there, isn't there? I can see it in your face, Dom.
Yeah.
You've made a very sensible, very rational adult decision, but your heart is going, why did you do that?
Yes. I absolutely hate being an adult and having to pay rent and going to university to get a PhD. That's why am I doing that when I could go together for one?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't need a job. You need a memory that will last a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, London ComicCon was that memory that's gonna last forever.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes, it's true, but to do it again is another one that lasts a lifetime.
They need to invite her in 2024. That's what I'm saying. Galley for One people. Yeah. I am manifesting this.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your internship in the UK. Where is it going to be and what you're doing?
I am not kidding you. I'm going to University of Huddersfield.
Yes!
Because
Huddersfield.
I need to contextualize this. It's important. I am not a stalker. So there's
categorically not a stalker.
Stalker. Yeah. No, exactly. So I'm getting my PhD in communication and media, but I'm studying fandom, so fan studies.
Ooh,
and there's like this.
Yes, it sounds very interesting. Yeah.
And there's this huge scholar, like really like well known all throughout the world, who is a professor at the University of Huddersfield, and he specializes in fan studies, and he's a big Whovian.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes.
We need to get him on the show. We need to get the both of you on the show.
Oh my god, yes, that would be great. So I...
The science of fan studies.
Yes.
The science of being a fan. Yes, there is actually a science to this, and we have a bona fide scientist right here to tell us about the science of being a fan. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
Put a word in for us, Dom.
I will. So I'm gonna work with him on a project, and I'm not sure how much I can tell about that, so I'm not gonna say anything just in case. So I'm going there next fall, and
that's autumn in the UK.
Yeah,
autumn, yeah. We actually the French word for autumn is automne, so it's basically the same thing. I don't know why I say fall like an American.
Same.
It's the pervasiveness of American culture, I feel.
Yeah.
So that sounds really exciting. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and
make sure you bring a coat.
A coat, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of need a coat in Canada too, so I'm gonna be all set.
Yeah, I'll say you do get pretty fierce winters over there, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
You can get snow.
Yeah. Do you guys get snow at all, or? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, about 1 millimeter.
It is like that. I mean, I've seen things in Canada where it's like banked up like miles high, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not gonna bring boots with me. I'm gonna be fine with my shoes.
Yeah, exactly. There you
go. But
boots.
I'm gonna walk around in a t-shirt. I'm gonna be fine. I'm kidding.
In Huddersfield. Oh.
But
sorry, we do that a lot.
I was going to say, I visited him in Huddersfield during the summer because I had a trip planned with family, so I went back to the UK and I visited him to kind of talk about what we were going to do next autumn. And and I stepped into his office and there was a cardboard cutout of Jodie right in my face.
Oh, amazing.
I was like,
wow.
Yes!
Also, not a stalker.
Yeah.
We are both not stalkers, by the way.
I mean,
you could get
out of the 13 Doctor cardboard cutout, like not actual, just Jodie. So it's he's a Whovian. That's fine.
That's brilliant. That's really good.
Yeah.
You're gonna get along fine, aren't you?
So I feel safe.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So, Dom, how are you feeling about the future of the show, and what are your thoughts on it all at the moment?
There's a lot going on. I honestly, I don't know how to put it into words because I feel like there's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on in my head about it. I think it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what it ends up being like in the next few years. I mean, with what we've learned today about the budget for each episode, I think it's insane. It's like, what, 10 millions?
That's what they're saying, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money.
Is that true? Does that come from a verified source?
I don't.
Or is it kind of sweeping around on the internet for the sake of it?
Broadcast, which is
but
one of the
I tried looking at
papers,
that, but you've got to subscribe to read the article.
Yeah,
which
you have to get
makes
through
me
a
suspicious.
paywall.
Yeah.
My view on that is, why, if Disney have the streaming rights, why would they throw millions into each episode when they have no ownership on it? I don't understand.
You don't throw money at something for no return, do you? You know, you don't throw £10 million an episode and not get something back for it. No, just have 100 million quid, 10 episodes, 10 million quid. There you go. Yeah, just take it. It's fine.
They wouldn't do that if they were just streaming it.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's either a lot of misinformation going around, or we're not being told everything. You know, about it, and it kind of doesn't matter in some ways, but I'd kind of like to know what's going on, you know, with the show. And you know, so I saw someone tweet just before we came on to chat, Disney are putting money into Bad Wolf that's owned by Sony. Why would Disney put money into a rival company?
Yeah, they've had fallings out previously, haven't they? They seem to be in a good place at the moment, but
but they still wouldn't just go, oh yeah, we know that another company owns you.
Yeah,
because
I'd do that. I'd give money to my rivals easily.
Oh yeah, I always phone up the other video guys and say, here, have some money. In fact, I don't need this work.
Unless they're fighting really for exactly. Yeah. They could be cooperating. You know, it's cooperation rather than competition, and or they're just.
Well, they might be. They did it. They did it with Spider-Man,
indeed.
But it just seemed, you know, I don't know. So it's
who knows? We shall know soon enough and look back on this episode as though it were a thing of the past and think, how naive we were. Yeah. And now they're filming Doctor Who in the volume, and there's like multiple spin-offs and everything.
Yeah. The uncertainty right now is
and then will be
kind of what makes me feel like a bit uneasy about it, I guess, because like change is fine. Like, we're used to it. It's important in Doctor Who, I think, like, to accept change, but that whole thing of like it's all a bit weird, and the change up like of the marketing was like a bit sudden, and like what's going on with that? But, you know.
It's like the paint wasn't even dry before they slapped on a new logo and everything, and it's like, well, okay, so don't give us any time to kind of just ease our way out of it into the new thing. No, that's it, right, that's done, shut the door, put this one on, do this, do that. It's like, you know, everyone's sort of moving. Although I suppose actually the current era of Doctor Who, as far as the production and everything else is concerned, ended at least a year ago, didn't it? You know, was it last July last year that it was all wrapped, right? Thereabouts?
No, it was November.
Was it November?
I think.
Oh, was it? Okay, still a year ago.
November, then.
So they'd probably all been kind of getting itchy fingers for the last 12 months and putting all kinds of things in place.
For us, it feels sudden, but I guess for them
it does. Yeah.
They still should have waited a bit. It just felt a bit wrong.
But you know, it's done now, and we got the new thing to look forward to, and it's going to be great. It'll bring on a whole bunch of new fans. Doctor Who enters a new era. This is exactly how those of us from the old days felt when in 2004, 2005. Kind of excited, but also a little bit concerned that what we're going to get is not going to be like it used to be when we were kids. And it isn't. You know, you can never quite recapture those things, but you look at the adventures ahead, and I've said this before, the things we haven't seen, all those people who are going to experience the Doctor's brilliant adventures for the very first time, you know, that's all there for them, and you know, it's also there for us as well. You know, what we've experienced with Jodie and everyone else, it's never gone away. It's still with us, and actually that's really precious, because that is ours, it's yours. That moment between you and Jodie at the ComicCons and all that stuff, that's never repeated, no matter how many times she does it with everyone else. That's you and her, and that will never ever go, and that's a beautiful thing.
That was beautiful.
That is beautiful, Paul.
Thank you. I'm cheap. My invoice is in the post.
He scripted that. Well, it's been wonderful talking Doctor Who with you, Dom, and it'd be nice to find another opportunity to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
In fact, we've had a talk, Paul, about doing an online Doctor Who RPG game.
Oh yes,
so
yes, we did. Yes,
up for that. Do you know about that?
I mean, I don't know much about RPG, but you know.
Well, no, I don't either. But I got the book, and
you got the book. You got the dice. Is it dice based? Is it a dice? Is there attributes?
But it's basically you make up a story.
I can do that.
Right.
I'm
and
good
play
at that.
through the story.
Make up a story.
And so you know it seems to be like you know your companion or whoever in the Doctor, you know, you encounter a wall, for example. How would you get over the wall?
Sounds riveting, mate.
You've got different, but there's more to it than that. But my example is that you've got different traits, and you know someone can climb and things like that. So I think it could be quite an amusing episode. That's
going to be one of our best podcast episodes. That is, I'm sure. I'm joking. I'm sure it's great.
I'm gonna kick you out the game.
I'm terrible at these things because I'm one of these people who I honestly don't have a lot of patience. I never have done. I've got magpie syndrome. So if I've got to sit down and prepare to play a game, if I've got to do like 2 days of prep before the game, I'm not gonna do it. This is why actually when RPGs landed on consoles, it's brilliant. Because then I can just forget about all that stuff writing down on paper and just play it. Just get my sword out and start hacking away at things and, you know, stuff like that. And then eventually I'd come into it and raise up attributes and stuff like that. But, yeah, I'm not good at prep, as you well know, Jeff.
Yes, I do, yeah.
Just get right in there. That's my philosophy. Just go for it. Just get right in there. Start swimming. Who needs armbands? Brilliant.
Well, thank you very much for coming on and chatting with
Thanks
us,
for having
and
me.
It's been a pleasure as always. And we'll do it again very soon.
Yes.
Take care, Dom. It's been an absolute pleasure. All the very best with your PhD as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
All the best to you guys too.
And enjoy your time in the UK as well.
Oh yeah, Huddersfield. Yeah, brilliant. You're gonna love that. Yeah.
Why don't we talk a bit about Doctor Who books? That is something that's very close to Paul's heart, isn't it, Paul?
I love my Doctor Who books. They're right there in my heart. I love them. Totally. Yeah.
Totes. So I'm down with the kids.
Don't say that again. I'm going to cut that.
But you won't cut his Avatar references though, will he? You keep them in. You'll probably record a few extra and just shove them in. Avatar. Sorry, go on. What are you going to say?
Let's talk a bit about Doctor Who.
Yeah, let's do that.
What are your favourites? What ones do you what do you like reading? Target or new series ones or the comics or? It's a bit like Big Finish. It's an ever expanding.
It is, and you know, like I said, I read one Target when I was the right age to be getting into Targets. I read fully one.
What was it? Did you tell us what it was?
It was the Dawn.
Oh yes, you did say. Yeah.
And I got that. I remember getting that from the library, reading that, and then thinking, "Oh, that's fantastic. That's, a great way of, being able to experience these stories and without seeing them." And there's one in the library.
Just one. That's it.
Yeah.
Man.
I did buy when I was in my teens. In a car boot sale in the Borders in Scotland, I came across Doctor Who and the Cybermen, the adaptation of the Moon Base. So I bought that. Don't know where that's gone.
Do you still have the other one, the first one you got?
No, that was
just in the library, wasn't it? Yeah.
Do you know, so that had to go back, unfortunately.
I've sort of implying you nicked it there, wasn't I? Really? But, there's a big fine on that. Isn't it funny to think that this show? Once episodes have gone out, it's a bit like with old films in a way. There was no other way to see it. At the time, you'd have had no idea that this stuff would ever come back onto TV or whatever, and so the books were the only way to experience them. And people today got no idea, what it's like, have they?
I find it such a sort of fascinating area of fandom, to be honest. I've contributed a few times to Jason Miller's excellent podcast, the Doctor Who Literature podcast. So through that, I am sort of building up my Target library now, and I've got a steadily increasing collection now, and I think it's what's really fascinating is for me, I experienced the stories as nature intended, because I I went out and I bought the VHS and I watched it. You know, people like Jason, probably yourself, Paul, you know, watched it once or didn't watch it once, and then came to it through the novelisation. So, and that whole journey of Target from, you know, starting the range, you know, bringing Terrance Dicks in to basically write the whole range until such time as he wasn't allowed to anymore, and then bringing the original authors back in. You know, so you can see, you know, what Terrance Dicks is doing with the story, where he's, you know, some books he's kind of just leaving it well alone for whatever reason. Some books he's thinking, oh, well, this just, you know, he's doing his sort of script editor job and, you know, polishing it up. And then you have, again, you know, the original authors coming in, and some are adding detail, some are fleshing it out, some are just, you know, doing what Terrance Dicks gets slated for, just you know, hacking it as a pure script to page, you know, rewrite. So that it's just, but what's fascinating is the effect that has on people's perception of that story. And you know, you hear people say, oh, well, you know, the story's great, and it's like, well, it's not, but in the book,
but you're remembering the book maybe rather than all those extra bits of story.
And you kind of, you go, well, you know, is that fair? Is that kind of fair to say, well, I'm judging this story based on not what's just what's on screen, but what's on the page?
Question. Yeah.
And you have to say, well, yes, it is, because ultimately that's
the story,
you know, part of. But that's a part of that person's journey through fandom. You know, that person has, you know, I'll take Jason Miller as an example. We had the discussion around Warriors of the Deep.
Yeah.
With him. Or, you know, and around, you know, can you fairly say that Warriors of the Deep is a great story because the book is great, and you know, for him, for his personal journey, then yes, you know, he, you know, watched that show, he read the book, you know, supplemented you know, what was on the screen, and it helped shape his journey through fandom. So ultimately, it is.
I totally agree. And just as you're saying that, actually, I'm thinking a couple of things. And actually, from this Warriors Gate, I think there's one of those, and Legopolis for me, where I was watching them. I mean, I didn't catch all of Warriors Gate when it came out. I think I maybe saw bits of episode 3, bits of 4. But I wanted to know more about it, so the first place I went to was the novelisation of it, and that was all I had. And I read it constantly, and that was my only experience of the story until I watched it much later. But maybe because I'd read the book so many times, because I think the actual TV series leaves a lot of gaps, or it leaves a lot of inference. You've got to connect a lot of the dots yourself. But if you've read the book, you can connect those without even thinking about it. But I don't know, because, you know, I only say that because I've talked to people who struggle to understand Warriors Gate, and a lot of it seems to be that, you know, what's that bit all about, and what happens there, and then you just explain it. Well, this, you know, that's all the rest of it. But I think also another part of this, which kind of extends from what you're saying, is how sometimes the novelizations and things which are exclusively part of a novel feed back into the story. And I'm thinking, and I could be wrong here, and I am wrong actually, because I was going to say the Doctor being ginger, but it does come out on Battlefield, doesn't it? Does he mention it in Battlefield? That a future incarnation of the Doctor could be ginger? Is it in the TV, or is it just in the novel?
I
can't remember now. I think
I haven't read the novel.
Either way, there's this whole recurring thing in the modern series, isn't there? Particularly with Matt Smith, he pulls down a lock of his hair and goes, it's still not ginger. And it's whether it's a Moffat thing or not, but, you know, clearly, I'm pretty sure it only comes from the books, but maybe it is in the TV. No, I think it's only in the book. I'm going to have to check it. Listeners, tell us, because we don't have time just now to go and read an entire novel and compare it against a TV show. But
well, you could. It wouldn't make for a great podcast.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be very boring, to be honest. So
page-turning noises and the occasional...
But you know what? And also, you know, those later Sylvester McCoy novelisations, so particularly Remembrance of the Daleks, which expands massively on the TV story, great, and Ghostlight and Battlefield as well. You know, Mark Platt and Ben Aranovich, and clearly they're weaving more into the Doctor Who world. They're opening up the mythos as they did in the TV show with the other kind of thing. What's come to be known as the Cartmel Master Plan. But they're expanding it in the novels, and it seems at exactly the right sort of time, because obviously the TV series gone, that was then allowed to kind of flourish throughout the Virgin New Adventures and kind of reach its apotheosis in Lungbarrow. So it's constant reinvention of its own self. It's what Doctor Who does, and for me personally, this is why I love it so much. If it was the same thing week after week after week, I'd probably like it, I'd be okay with it, but I don't think I'd really look forward to the next piece of it as much as I often do.
Well, it's the change and things that have kept it fresh, really, isn't it? Not just in the change of the lead actor, but when it experiments and tries different things, like Sleep No More. I've always liked that episode, and I appreciate it's not for everyone.
No, that's fine. But, exactly. It can try it, can't it?
That. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It couldn't do it weekly like that, but it's
Heaven Sent again, another one. It's quite unique, and and it can do it because the format of the show can easily stretch to accommodate that kind of story.
Well, I think it's a creatively unlimited show. There'd be a way to do everything in it, and justify it with some alien nonsense or something. Musical episode,
We've had a musical episode in Big. It'd be good, wouldn't it? We've done it in Big Finish, I think, but not in the TV show. That would be. I'd love to see it. I really would.
Yeah.
The internet would probably go mental with it. What's this? This ain't the Doctor Who that I grew up with. Yeah. Doctor Who is dark and dramatic and tells interesting dramas. There's not this musical nonsense. I shall not stand for it. I shall not watch it. Never again. And they're back on next week to say they hate it just as much. So. Sorry, we're having a bit of a dig now at some of the darker corners of fandom, but you know what? We're all Doctor Who fans at the end of the day, and we all love it in all its guises. So
So, sorry, carry on.
The range of books that I did buy. Growing up. Is the sort of How Stammers Walker guidebooks.
Oh, yes.
The handbooks, I think the first Doctor, second Doctor, handbooks, those were...
These kind of things.
Yeah.
So,
the reference...
There's a few of those, isn't there?
Books.
Yeah. Oh, these are great. Look, you've seen these, Jeff? Look at that. That's solid, that is. Every Doctor Who story up to...
Show me the front cover again.
Ta-da. There's a little bit of a plug there.
Yeah,
there you go. Sorry, Fraser, go on. Continues that.
Those were kind of, big part of my, journey through fandom in the 90s. Learning about the stories. Not actually just, watching them or reading them, but the ones that weren't available. So what happened in it, what was the the production, but they also came with mark out of 10.
That one does, I think, actually, because that one has it's quite opinionated in a lot of its in the way it tells criticize or deconstructs each different story. It's somebody's opinion.
Exactly, and it's something that I've come to kind of battle against in recent years, because I call it RFW, received fan wisdom.
What was it called?
RFW, received fan wisdom.
That's the polite version of it, but
it's it's this idea that the Dominators is rubbish,
exactly.
The Gunfighters is rubbish. This is a classic and this is rubbish, and
exactly.
But if you thinking of the time, these books were being published, and there was no internet, there was no Twitter, there was no forum for people to kind of disagree. It was just, all right, so it's in a book, and this guy says it's in a book. Yeah. This guy says it in a book, so it must be true. Yeah. So it must be true that things like Underworld or shite and Creature from the Pit is just
Series 17
is
blah,
laughable.
blah, blah.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you know, it's took an effort. Because I fell into that. You know, when I started buying DVDs, you know, in the 2000, 2010 time, you know, buying DVDs, and you'd put on something like The Leisure Hive, and you just go, oh, well, that's enough, isn't it? East Space Trilogy, Warriors Gate, well, what's going on with this then? You know,
I would never say that about The Leisure Hive. I love it.
Yeah, but if
I know what you mean.
Buy into that, you know, received fan wisdom that this is a shonky production, and you know, Tom Baker's phoning it in, and all the rest of it, then it's so easy to just dismiss it. You know, you have to make, or I've had to make in recent years, like a real effort to ignore what other people think, to make my own.
Well, do you know, I think that's sort of, I think you're quite spot on there, actually, Fraser, because there's a lot of stuff where, you know, there's a perception of an episode or a film, or, you know, music or whatever, and it kind of can pervade the internet and be everywhere, and, you know, particularly with people watching, you know, reviewers on YouTube and stuff, and, you know, listening to, you know, idiots on podcasts whose opinions mean nothing.
Like us, you mean?
Like us. But, you know, it's like there was a couple of days ago on Twitter, someone said, you know, they'd heard something was bad, so they didn't watch it. And I said, well,
that's the tragedy of it, isn't it?
I heard it on YouTube, but why don't you watch it yourself and make your mind up? Now, fair enough, if whatever it might have been doesn't appeal to you, don't watch it, because it just isn't going to work for you. But if you had an interest, it was a sequel or something or whatever, and somebody's told you it's crap, well, why don't you make your own mind up about it? You know, and I think that's like, you know, when people watch, you know, reviewers and critics and stuff like this, and sort of form their opinions through them. I think it, you know, I'm not sure it's great. I think it's good to sort of listen to like-minded people and think, well, they liked it, so maybe I might like it, or do you know what I mean? Rather than just sort of letting that be, you know, be your opinion. Oh, well, so and so told me it was crap. Well, maybe I mean, they didn't
don't
like
get
it.
Us wrong.
You know,
there's room for criticism. There's room for critics. You know, there's room for like reviewing and saying, well, actually, you know, you know, I've went and watched Avatar, and this is what I think of it, and so on and so forth. You know, and then.
But I think it's,
you know, as we've
go on, Fraser.
Said, you know, you know, we are, you know, we're all parents. You know, our time is limited, so that, to be able to say, well, actually, you know, the reviews of this film, not Avatar, different film, is not fantastic. So, you know, I'm not going to spend the time that I have on watching that. I'm going to watch, you know, a different film. I think, you know, there's obviously room for that, but it is, you know, the way it crosses the line is when you are, you know, just parroting that view and saying, well, actually, you know, I have not seen this, but it is shite.
And there's a difference between constructive criticism and actually kind of reviewing in that way, and just looking at something to tear it apart and go, you know, this is crap. And also, you're right, you know, when you've got kids and things, you know, I can't go to the cinema every week, every other week like I used to. So now, you know, I have to pick the things I really want to see. Yeah. And, you know, unless all the reviews for something, you know, are uniformly bad, I'm going to go because I want to make my own mind up on it. And if they are terrible, well, I'll catch it at home, you know. But, you know, there's, you know, stuff comes out, I think, oh, yeah, I'd like to see that. But, you know, I sort of feel like I have a, you know, a bi-monthly cinema token to redeem, so it's going to go on, you know, something I really want to see and that I'm pretty confident is going to, you know, make me happy and I'm going to enjoy, and the other stuff that still appeals, well, I'll watch that at home, you know. I
always think there's again, some people might disagree, but I do kind of think that there needs to be, or should be, a sort of responsibility within the reviewer, you know, to kind of, I don't know, not necessarily to kind of handhold people, but perhaps to understand that their impact could reach further than they perhaps think. You know, that, you know, you can literally turn some people away because, you know, I don't quite know how to sort of phrase this properly, so I might struggle, but, you know, not everybody has high self-esteem. Not everybody is the most confident person, not only about what they think. They might not know what they fully believe yet. They might not be quite comfortable with who they are and what they like and what they don't like, and in some ways can be quite impressionable, or perhaps easy to influence, or easily influenced by powerful personalities that they see on YouTube and all social media channels and everything else. And I think in the pre-internet days that still existed, but I think now with media within literally a fingertips reach, it's very immediate and it's incredibly impactful. And I think the words and the language that critics often use, especially the amateur critics, people like us really, who just jump online and say stuff, I think there is a responsibility in them to kind of just understand that what they say is potentially of massive impact throughout and could really disrupt. It could make or break somebody's enjoyment of a thing, and actually hurt them in a personal level as well, because if they like this thing, or and aren't and are a little bit afraid to voice that, I don't know how to voice it, and then somebody tramples over that with a bulldozer of an opinion that carries millions of loud babbling voices behind it in its wake, it can really be quite harmful, I think. So I think it's within all of us, really, we've all got the sort of power to decide what we're going to put out there online. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, the key thing is that people need to remember that it is just an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to confuse it with fact.
It's not an objective fact. If I say that, The Dominators is a great story, that's my opinion of it. If you or someone else says to me, "No, Fraser, you're wrong. It's a load of out shit, and this is why," it's then that's their opinion. We have different opinions,
and it's respecting that other opinion, isn't it? That you may not like something, but someone else does, and
And that's where the debate, that's where good conversations come from, isn't it?
But arguing at people online and telling them that they're wrong for liking something, they're not just going to go, "Oh, you're right, I'm wrong for having enjoyed it." How
you're absolutely right. This thing is objectively rubbish. How could I not see it before? Thank you so much for pointing that out to me, you star. Yeah.
Well, actually, you have 2,000 more followers than me, so you must be, therefore.
Yeah. Therefore, you are correct. No. Yes, you are learned. You have been to school and everything.
And you use bigger words.
Yeah. Oh, but it's, for years, right, RFW, right? Because similar to you, Fraser, the sort of information books, I lapped those up early 80s. The Celebration by Peter Haining, 1982, 83, whatever it was, and a few of those others afterwards. I'm pretty sure in one of those I'd read Peter Haining write that, and it might not have been him, he might have been quoting it from something, a fanzine or something, but it said that, the Gunfighters from the late Hartnell days is the worst story ever. Or something, that kind of, and I actually believed it. The same with the Horns of Nymon. A pantomime, a farce. An absolute tomfoolery of what Doctor Who should be. Not the best example in that. But and for years I believed it. And when I eventually got round to it, especially the Gunfighters, I remember. And that was a UK Gold thing. I wasn't going to buy it. It wasn't even out on VHS then, but so it was UK Gold. And I thought, "Ooh, should I watch it? Should I not?" And of course I should watch it. Like you said, make my own mind up. And from episode 1, I thought, "Oh, it's fantastic. What is actually wrong with this? Okay, it might not be epic, right? It's not a Dalek's master plan, but I've never seen that anyway. But it's a good story. It's Doctor Who does a Western, does the Clayton brothers and Wyatt Earp and stuff like that, and why not? And it's to take that away from somebody by telling them it's not worthy of their time is just wrong, because that's not what Doctor Who is. It can be whimsical, and we can have moons being giant dragon eggs, space dragon eggs, and all kinds of other things, and that is the absolute beauty of this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. What you said there about the Horns of Nymon is 100% correct. It is tomfoolery. It is pantomime. It is.
But it's a lot of fun.
It is a nonsense. But that's the fun of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
the fun of it. I will. One of the hills that I will die on is that Graham Crowden provides the single greatest supporting performance of any person.
Totally
in the whole
agree.
Of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Only challenged really by Paul Darrow in Time.
Ooh, do you know what? And there's another one.
He's the only one that comes
that
close.
I looked at recently. I thought, well, do you know what? Again, what are you talking about? He does relish the lines, and he does act it up, and he hams it, and he knows he's doing it, but in doing so, actually gives Tekka a manic edge. Right, and a memorable, there's something memorable and frightening about Malin Tekka, and the lengths he goes to, and his death is, I love it. And again, yes, Doctor Who does often go into pantomime, but why not?
Well, that's the beauty. You've got pantomime if you want it. You've got gothic horror if you want it. You've got James Bond car chases and plane chases and helicopter attacks if you want it. Yeah. You've got shining space cities.
It covers
if you
so
want
many
You've got
genres, doesn't it?
Yeah,
really, with
something
it,
for everyone.
Something for everyone. I like that.
It's a broad church.
Yeah.
Aye.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah.
I love that. It's very true.
Yeah,
so, what would you say then? Would that be the sort of message you'd give to any new fans coming on board, Fraser? How would you introduce Doctor Who to them? Would that be the thing, or where would you go?
Yeah. Kind of welcome. If you're, coming to me and say, "Oh, I'm a new Doctor Who fan," then welcome to the world of Doctor Who. This is a world where, you've got the ultimate sandbox.
Yeah,
brilliant.
You've got everything that you want there. Like I say, you want something really, gritty, then we've got that for you. You want, people getting crushed by mummy tits, then awesome. There's pyramids in Mars for you. Do you want your sort of kind of strange, sort of, noir sort of, breakdown of the government? Okay, I'll give you Happiness Patrol. It's got Bertie Bassett in as well. You're gonna love it. You want action? You want adventure? There you go. Then
and you know what?
Deep psychodrama. There you go. Got that as well.
If you've always thought, I reckon the moon's an egg, we got you covered as well.
Exactly. Do you want us to, take you on an emotional roller coaster and make you cry buckets at the end? There you go. There's
done that as well.
There's Rose in the 10th Doctor on a beach.
Yeah.
If do you want us to make you laugh? Then there's just so many things. So, that override message would be, this is an opinion. Yeah, whatever you hear, whatever you see on Twitter, whatever anyone comes and tells you, even me, I am a very, very opinionated person. People that know me will tell you that I am not wrong.
But within
that's not. Yeah, that is. It is always. It is. I always say that with jest. It is always my opinion versus your opinion, and the fun does come from that. If you want to disagree with me, awesome. Do it right.
And
we'll have a chat about it, and we'll. Yeah, do it the right way, and we'll get on famously. But otherwise, you'll get. Try
it at your risk.
Fantastic. On that note, should we end it there? Because I think that's quite a nice one to finish on. Or
that's a good.
You got more going on, Jeff? Are you good?
No, I'm happy. That's a good end. I think.
I think it is.
That's
good.
Yeah,
brilliant. Fraser, listen,
brilliant.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast tonight, mate. It's been a lot of fun.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been.
Whenever we have people on, we could probably talk all night, couldn't we?
We could if you didn't talk over them, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just following your lead there.
Ba-doom!
Oh, I think I've done all the talking over you two today.
Mate, you're the guest. You're welcome.
That's the pointer tonight. Yeah, to hear your stories.
Again, I just want to say a big thank you for inviting us. Like I said to Paul, the caliber of people that you get on our podcast is really quite impressive. So, for you to be, kind of thinking of me, when you could be out getting Sophie Aldred on again or Colin Baker or someone.
Well, I was just going to say we can now add you to that list of people.
Exactly.
That we'd be lucky enough to have.
Yeah. It's as much a show about fans for the fans as it is cast and crew and everybody else who creates it. It's we're all part of that time and space, if you like.
Yeah,
that's the way we look at it anyway.
No. it was a really nice invitation. So thank you very much.
Very welcome, Fraser. Yes, indeed. So. Fantastic. So I am gonna call you Mestor actually, because I have to, because I followed your Twitter account for ages and ages and ages. And I think one of the that's all right, it's totally free. Don't worry about it. You can do that. Feel free to follow me back at some point as well. It's perfectly fine if you don't. I don't mind. Yeah, it was just a joke. I just couldn't resist the punchline, But no, it's all good. But I tell you what kind of attracted me to your account actually was your I think you were either embarking or just began your a kind of was it the Virgin New Adventure books? I think that was when I first came across your account, because you were rereading the Doctor Who Virgin New Adventures, which are which are definitely worth reading. Some are better than others, I think, but it's for everybody to make up their own mind as to which ones they enjoy. And I quite liked it because some of the titles you liked, I didn't like, and some of the titles you weren't quite so keen on, I really raved about. And that's always good for a little bit of Twitter banterage, So did you? Is this quite a recent thing? Have you read them? Have you read them all before? Or is it your mission now to read all the Doctor Who books? Tell us about this and how it all began.
I'm just going to interject.
Because
sorry, I just followed you because I didn't follow you, which is really bad. And are these your figure photos as well?
Every fucking time.
Say again, sorry, Jeff.
Are these your figure photos that you've done here?
I've put some figure photos up. Yes.
Yeah.
I tend to do, because I'm also on a classic Who marathon as well, watching it for the 60th, and I just like to illustrate the tweets that I put on, either with the character options stuff or the Eagle Moss stuff, which I'm quite a recent convert to, actually.
Yeah, I thought that's what you had in
so
your
that's
here,
sort of like a new strand of the collection. Going back to the question about the New Adventures.
Yes, sorry.
Having grown up in the wilderness years, I was always aware of them, because my Doctor Who journey really begins in 1984, because the first memory I have of Doctor Who at all is the Dalek being pushed out of the warehouse in Resurrection of the Daleks. And then I can remember certain Colin Baker stories on transmission. I certainly remember Mestor. He is one of my earliest memories of Doctor Who, and really being quite unnerved by him. And then I became a fan, if you like, in the Sylvester McCoy era, and Remembrance of the Daleks is really the episode that makes me a fan. That just blew me away at the age of 8.
Brilliant.
And then, of course, with the cancellation of the programme and being an avid reader of Doctor Who magazine, I couldn't not be aware of the New Adventures. But for a while, they weren't something that I bought or got engaged with, because at the time I was predominantly working my way through the Target novelizations. And then I remember buying my first few second-hand off a market stall in Preston, and then they just sat on the shelf for years and years. And then when I got my paper round in the mid-90s and sort of had more of a disposable income, I'd spend a long time browsing the shelves in places like Waterstones and Hammocks, which was a wonderful bookshop no longer going, but they tended to get much more of the Doctor Who stuff in. They used to stock the VHSs as well. And so reading the stuff in Doctor Who magazine and reading the reviews, plus, if I remember rightly, the comic strips at the time tied in somewhat with the narrative strand.
Did they?
So
and they used to have those little prologues as well, didn't they?
In some of the Doctor Who magazines. I remember reading a few of those. So there were certain ones that used to grab my attention, usually if there was an old enemy returning. So I remember buying Iceberg, for example, and I remember buying Bloodheat. Because you had Legacy, because you had returning villains. And then I think the first New Adventure I ever read all the way through was Birthright, which was a rather unusual one to pick, because the Doctor isn't in it. You know, it's probably one of the first examples of a Doctor-light narrative.
Yeah.
And then the next one I remember reading after that was Set Piece by Kate Orman. And this would have been when I was 16. It was just after I'd finished my GCSEs, and I read it because it was Ace's departure story, but I got the impression as I was reading it that I really should have read other stories beforehand, because a lot of it didn't make a great deal of sense. Anyway, put forward a couple of years, and you'll probably remember the days when you used to answer classified ads in the local paper. And there was a local seller who simply advertised that she had Doctor Who books for sale. So I journeyed out with my checkbook, and she proceeds to bring out 3 large suitcases that were full of targets and all of the new adventures and all of the missing adventures, bar a few missing titles. I seem to remember none of the William Hartnell missing adventures were included. Either she kept them or she didn't buy them. And so all of a sudden I found in one fell swoop that I had the entire collection, and I thought, right, I better start reading these. So in my early 20s I embarked upon a marathon then, and I got as far as No Future by Paul Cornell. And that's when I started my teacher training. So free time just went out of the window. And of course, the longer I left it, the harder it was to then get back into the flow. And I'm not asking anybody to get the violins out, but the first few years of teaching, that's what I lived and breathed. And so I didn't have the free time to go back and read them. And then, and this is where, if I had a TARDIS, I'd go back and sort 20-something me out. I decided that I'll never ever get round to reading these. I'm going to start slimming down the collection. And this was round about the time when certain titles like So Vile Sin, Lung Barrow, The Dying Days were starting to get rare. And people were paying a lot of money for them on eBay. So I thought, oh well, little bit more disposable income. I'll get rid of these. Thought no more of it. By this point, I already had a number of duplicates, which I also then gave to the charity shop. I don't know what I was thinking. So that, and this is where we come to what's really started the Twitter stuff. I had a brief conversation on Twitter with a Doctor Who fan called Miles Taylor. I don't know whether you're familiar with him. Really, really nice chap. And he sent out a tweet asking, did anybody have any new adventures, because he'd heard about them and he wanted to know if they were worth reading. Now, I happen to have all of the Time Worm books in duplicate, not in particularly good condition, in my attic. So I said, well, here, have these. They've just been sat in the attic for years. But when I was packaging them up, I thought, you know what? I'd really quite like to read these again, knowing that I had substantial gaps in the collection by this point. So, sort of on a whim, inspired by that, I decided on the 1st of January 2022, I was going to start this marathon and I would tweet about them. And I was amazed, by about halfway through the Cat's Cradle trilogy, other fans were starting to get in touch with me and reminisce about their own experiences of the new adventures. And it's quite obvious that it's an era of the programme, and now that I'm nearly at the end of the new adventures, I think it is an era of the programme, because when you think about the fact that it has these interconnecting narratives that have gone on, and it rewards reading it in order, just as if you were watching it on television. And it's obvious that for a certain generation of fans, they mean an awful lot. And I sort of count myself in that as well, although I didn't fully appreciate them at the time. Now that I'm actually rediscovering some of them, and then from No Future on, with the odd exception, like I remember reading Human Nature just before they did the New Who version. With David Tennant. When I knew they were doing that, I thought, I'm going to read the book, and I still had that one in the collection at the time. Most of them from No Future onwards are completely new to me. And so it's been really interesting being able to share my view of them, and also to get other fans' opinions. And as you were saying there are certain titles that I've enjoyed that you haven't, and vice versa. It must be one of the most divisive eras of the programme that actually exists, and I think that's part of the enjoyment of being able to discuss them in a social forum.
Yeah.
That's a very long-winded answer to a very simple question.
It's fine, Peter. It's all fascinating.
I was going to say, Paul, you hunted for years, didn't you, for Target books and the New Adventures and stuff, and then.
Well, I did. I mean, I was quite fortunate because I'm so old that they were actually all still in print and being printed whilst I was going. I mean, with the Target novels, it got to a point where I think towards the end of Sylvester McCoy's era, I'd pretty much got every title, and then I was able to just buy them monthly as they were kind of released, or bi-monthly, or whatever it was. And then they spent a few years where they were still catching up on some of the old titles that hadn't been novelised at that point. Some of the old Hartnell stories, like the Savages and War Machines and Edge of Destruction and things like that. And so the whole thing was being completed. And as Peter says, actually, as soon as the series finished, there was no Doctor Who. I mean, you guys were there. You were a little bit younger than me, but I needed more. And as soon as the Virgin New Adventures appeared. I snapped them up, and they did carry me through a certain, period of my life. I was coming towards, I might have been at the end of sixth form when they started, but certainly through my university years, I was reading them, and a lot of those early titles, like you're mentioning, the Cat's Cradle trilogy, and Lucifer Rising, for some reason I particularly remember, and Deceit, being really into those and reading them at a certain. I can visualize exactly where I was when I was reading them, and it was a great time in my life. I was making new friends at uni. I met my wife, who wasn't my wife then, but she became my wife, and we started that relationship, and it was great. And I was enjoying what I was studying as well. I was really kind of getting into it. And then in between times, I'm reading all these these Doctor Who adventures, which were. And are actually quite involved stories. You're talking about things like Iceberg, and I know there's one we disagree on, which is Ben Aranovic's Transit, which I really like, actually. I mean, it's as a Doctor Who story, it doesn't really do that. But I remember reading that, and I loved because. I was big into the cyberpunk stuff at the time as well. That's my bag. So anything with evil corporations was brilliant. And of course, the New Adventures rewrote the IMC, the Interplanetary Mining Corporation, from the Doctor Who story Colony in Space as an evil corporation. Actually, it was an evil corporation anyway, but now it was rewritten in a kind of cyberpunk sort of style. Evil corporation. And back to Transit, it had all of that stuff in it and more besides, and the fact that I don't know if I should give it away, but the reveal of what's causing all the problems for me was just I loved it, and I thought, why have I never seen that? Why you look at the London Underground map, which is a kind of extension of this interplanetary transit system, and what it turns out to be, you think, of course it is brilliant. I was absolutely gobsmacked and really jealous in a way that I'd never thought of that.
The thing is, I mean, for anybody who might be listening who hasn't read any of the New Adventures, they may well be aware that they have a reputation for being difficult and edgy, which I suppose they were at the time. But I think now that I'm coming to the end pretty much I think I've got about 5 or 6 of the New Adventures to go, and the same number of missing adventures, which we might come on to. There are far more hits than misses. And the interesting thing about Transit is I've read Transit twice, because I read it on the marathon years and years ago, and I've read it again more recently. Just over a year ago was when I read Transit. And it's one that I would go back to. I think it is difficult. It's not really my bag, because I'm not a massive hard SF or cyberpunk fan, and the main sin it commits, well, there's 2 really. One, it doesn't write Bernice very well, because I don't think Aronovich was expecting Bernice to become
I think she was kind of
she's sidelined and possessed by the entity that's behind all of the all of the carnage in the transit system. And the other problem is I found the ending really, really obscure. And I think it does annoy me when you've worked. I think I read it actually.
I can't remember the ending.
I read it over the weekend. And so I started it on the Friday night, because my ritual really is I start them on a Thursday or a Friday. I always read on a Friday. That's my little treat at the end of a working week.
That's your day.
And I try to get them finished by the Sunday. And I did that with Transit. And it sort of became so surreal at the end that it was obscure. And I really didn't have a clue what was going on. And even when I read the synopsis of it, because it's one of the few books that has a full synopsis on TARDIS Wiki. Most of them haven't been uploaded.
Okay.
And I still didn't understand it reading the synopsis.
Didn't understand it.
And I know some people have said it's basically a first draft that was published. Because I believe that, and no disrespect to him, because I think Aronovich is a marvellous writer. I believe he's not very good with deadlines. And people who are more in the know about this have suggested that it was another one of those that was late, and it was basically published as a first draft, which if it had gone away and been polished, some of those issues like the burning city, like the ending, might have been sorted out. But although it's one that comes low in my rankings, it's very important to the chronology of the stories. I think if you don't read Transit, Set Piece isn't going to make any sense. The Also People isn't going to make any sense, because it's the start of the Kadiatu Lethbridge Stewart storyline. And she's a fascinating character. She's the best thing about the Transit novel.
Yeah.
You know, this long lost relative of the Brigadier. So it's one of those that, but the thing is, what really interested me about Transit is going back to that 1998 poll that Doctor Who magazine did, and by then, of course, the Virgin and the Missing Adventures, the New Adventures and the Missing Adventures had come to an end. They polled both ranges, and Transit came at the very bottom of that poll as the worst new adventure. But I think time has been very, very kind to it. If you look on Goodreads, it's got an aggregate score of 3 point something, much, much higher than some of the others.
Than a lot of the others.
And so it seems to have a core of people who really got it and really enjoyed it. And having read, almost the whole range now, it's far from being the worst new adventure.
But again, it's all very subjective, isn't it? Because the range covers so many different writing styles and kind of, authors of varying experience as well. A lot of these authors it was their first time writing. I mean, Mark Gatiss, for example, the first time he'd ever written a Doctor Who novel, and really anything, I think. And again, with even Russell T Davies, his first novel, I believe it was.
That's my next
Return
one.
of the Living
Twilight of the Gods, which
Return
is
of
the Missing Adventure.
Because
I've just finished The Death of Art, and so the next new adventure is Damaged Goods, Russell T Davies.
Damaged Goods, that's what I'm thinking.
It is interesting, isn't it, that it gave them this scope. I mean, I'm not name dropping here, but I had the privilege of meeting Daniel Blythe recently, because he came as a visiting author into our school, and again, that was something I arranged over Twitter, because he got in touch with me about some of the comments I'd made on the Dimension Riders and Infinite Requiem, both of which I think are fantastic. And he was saying that basically you pitched the idea to Virgin, and they then decided whether or not they were going to take you on. And I think the fact that it was this almost open forum for new writers to come in, and so therefore you get, Mark Gatiss nails it immediately in a way that a writer like Neil Penswick doesn't, because The Pit must be one of the most boring books ever written, and yet again it's really important in the ongoing narrative.
Not one of my favourites.
And Daniel O'Mahony's another one. I mean, I remember Daniel Blythe saying to me, because we chatted over lunch about the range, and I was saying that I hadn't got on with either Falls the Shadow, his new adventure, or The Man in the Velvet Mask, the Missing Adventure that he wrote, where he did awful things to Dodo. And I remember him saying that the thing he found about Daniel O'Mahony was he was really good with the ideas, but what he needed was an editor. And I'm not always sure, from what Daniel Blythe said to me, I'm not always sure that the editing process at Virgin was spot on. And I think if certain books had
But it was quite a small team, wasn't it? I think there was only 2 of them. You know, literally, was it Nigel Robinson running the whole range, and a sub-editor? Was it Rebecca?
It was Peter Darvill-Evans who was in charge of the whole range.
Peter Darvill-Evans, yes. Nigel Robinson was the target range, wasn't it? And he wrote for you, and then Peter Darvill-Evans.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Rebecca Levine took over from him. I can't remember whereabouts she takes over, but I think it was round about mid-95. So she oversaw everything from then on till the end of the range.
Yeah, but I think those guys are literally doing the whole thing themselves, aren't they? You know, they're running the whole operation from a little office in Ladbroke Grove or something like that. It's quite incredible. You know, independent publishing almost. Yeah, it's Virgin, so it's a big brand and everything else, but actually run like an independent, like you said, open doors to, you know, new writers, new ideas, new pitches. You know, for a very niche audience, really, because, you know, it's only a certain section of even hardcore, I would say, Doctor Who fans are probably going to go and read these things, and probably of a certain age bracket as well. It's, you know, they're not going to achieve massive world dominating figures by any stretch, and
they were also taking a risk as well, weren't they? Because if you look at the way that, I mean, I've not read much Doctor Who literature of the revival era, but I did read a couple. I've read Forever Autumn by Mark Morris. I've read Sting of the Zygons, and they are much more what I now recognise as a teacher as young adult literature, possibly even a little bit, you know, year 8, year 9 type age group. Whereas Virgin really did take a risk. They were pitching it deliberately to an adult audience, and I think that's what divided some of the fans at the time, and what newer fans of the programme who have heard hearsay about the New Adventures might be more familiar with the idea that they were controversial and they were edgy. And I think that's why Transit got into quite a lot of trouble, because I think it's the first one that uses the F word, and I think it's the first one where you've actually got characters having sex, which is, you know, completely alienating to certain members of the Doctor Who audience. But it's amazing how quickly you get used to that. In terms of the style and the tone of the New Adventures, and it stops becoming an issue, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Have you read many of the New Adventures, Jeff? You've been
no, I've got 0 to add to this.
Sorry, mate.
No,
we're having a good old chat.
No, it's good. I'm listening because it's interesting because.
Yeah.
Like you, Peter, I remember when, and I've said this before on the podcast, I remember when Sylvester's last episode went out, and, you know, I was quite into the show and it was disappointing. But as far as I was aware, that was it then. You know, I wasn't reading the magazine or anything. You know, I didn't know that existed. You know, obviously we didn't have the internet or anything back then. And then it was when the TV movie, you know, came on. And I thought, I remember that. You know, I used to watch that. You know, I'll check that out. You know, and I said to Paul, you know, once a while ago when we were talking about it, I knew nothing about the Target books or the New Adventures or any of it. You know, and you know, the show was obviously off air, you know, for all those years, and like I said, as far as I was aware, it was finished. You know, that was it. And I think, you know, today, if that happened, you know, for a show, you'd be online, so you know, there'd be people saying, well, actually, that, you know, there's a comic coming out, or, you know, whatever it was. But, you know, back then it was not as easy as it is now, I don't think, you know, and it just completely bypassed me. But what you were saying there, Peter, you know, my you know, as I got into the show again and started reading the magazine and stuff, my you know, impression and understanding of the New Adventures books were that they were a bit more, you know, a bit more naughty and edgy, and that was kind of the you know, the impression that, you know, they were all shooting up and shagging and stuff in them.
Well, Age was, and
there were a lot of drug references.
Yeah, that's basically what she became. And it's interesting that when I think about my experience of what fans call the wilderness years, I can't think of a greater misnomer, because Doctor Who never went away.
Well, that's what Paul said once before.
As I'm saying, going back to when I got my paper round, and I suddenly had £10, £11.50 if I made no mistakes, a week to spend. And the VHSs are coming out. You know, it got to a stage in the mid-90s where 2 VHSs were coming out a month. And I had the Doctor Who magazine, and there was the New Adventures. And, of course, there were certain repeats on television. So although, you know, everybody knew that Doctor Who wasn't being made anymore, it certainly never went away. And when I think now, I mean, I was just in Waterstones in Ormskirk earlier today, and looking round, and there's nothing Doctor Who on the shelves at all. No books, no reference books, no... well, I know they don't stock Blu-rays and DVDs and things like that, but bookshops like Waterstones and Hammocks used to stock the VHSs in the day. And I was just thinking, you know, Doctor Who is back. It's in its 60th anniversary year. In the 30th anniversary year, you couldn't move for Doctor Who stuff. And it's a very, very different, very different time. It never seemed to go away, which was brilliant.
Yeah, and I think these days that quite a lot of the sort of stuff that we like is, you know, quote unquote niche and specialist, and you know, so like I buy the Marvel films, you know, the art books, for example. I have to find them in specific places online. They're never in Waterstones, and if they do have them, they're always like 5 years old ones, you know. And so, you know, and like you say with the Doctor Who books, sometimes my Waterstones might have a couple, but they're old ones, and you know their film section, for example, hasn't. You know, if you looked at that, you'd think, did they stop making films 6 years ago? You know, like it's out of date. So I think, you know, we have to sort of hunt stuff out, like you were saying, Peter. You know, go Forbidden Planet, or you know, there's various websites where you know you can get figures and you know all this sort of stuff from, and it is available, but it's not kind of, you know, widely available, if you know what I mean. And you know, it would be nice to see you know, stuff, you know, like going into the shop and you know, oh yeah, there's some Doctor Who stuff, and you know, been able to get excited about it. But I do think this kind of stuff has become more, you know, specialist. And but then, like, you know, we've got a really good comic shop in my town that you know you wouldn't have had a few years ago, for example, and I can go there and get stuff, you know, as opposed to Smith's or something.
I think there are the specialisms, but there's also a wider. I mean, Doctor Who, the Doctor Who fan base. I think if you're creating books or something for Doctor Who fans, you've actually got a really wide spectrum of, you know, a really wide demographic. Because on the one hand, you have got the youngsters, you know, just you know, who are starting to read through Doctor Who books, or you know, that's how I started reading. Really, was reading the old hardbacks back in the day. And you know, so that there, and then of course, as you said, Peter, there's the sort of young adult target as well, isn't it? Which must be, I would say, must be the widest, but also probably the most competitive segment of that audience, because it's absolutely chock-a-block with all kinds of things vying for attention. And I think when you're Waterstones and WH Smiths, two big national outlets like this, you've only got, you know, you've got to choose your space wisely. You know, you're only going to sell absolute top titles because you want that churn through. So if you're going to have some books which maybe are going to linger or don't have that kind of history, that flow through of sales from year on year, which I'm pretty sure the Doctor Who books don't have, because they've been relatively inconsistent between each different decade of the modern series, then you run a risk. So, you know, from a commercial perspective, it's got to be really difficult to pitch these to the big chains. Of course, independent bookshops are few and far between, and again, for them, it's even more of a risk, because you know, who's going to buy from them? You know, they might buy to order, sell to order. So it's got to be difficult. And then on the extreme end of the spectrum, like you said, Jeff, you got the people of means with disposable income who will pay, you know, 50 quid, £100 or something for something very, very exclusive, premium, and you know, just something really, really top end. But again, you know, that's not mass market. That's a few sales of a limited edition run or something. So it must be a real challenge for. I think it's mostly Penguin Books now, isn't it? Who produce the Doctor Who books. Yeah. So you've got quite a few figures as well then, haven't you, Peter? You mentioned in the Eagle Moss and the character option stuff. And of course you photograph your little reading sessions.
Yeah, I love that.
With the books in them as well.
Yeah.
My love of Doctor Who as a programme really goes hand in hand with the love of the merchandise, because around about the time that season 25 went out and I start to become a fan, that was when Dapol released their first action figures. And for Christmas that year, the first present that I opened was an Imperial Dalek, and then that was then followed by the TARDIS and the Doctor, and so that's and prior to that, I'd very much enjoyed things like Masters of the Universe and the original Star Wars Kenner line. So the idea of collecting toys in conjunction with some sort of media was something that I'd already been doing for about 3 or 4 years, and also round about that time as well, my dad is still very into Hornby and model railways and things, so we used to go to collectors' fairs, and so with the little bits of pocket money that I'd have, I'd then start to buy things from the 60s and the 70s. And so when Character Options then started to bring out the classic series figures, that was just, to me, amazing. And they were always, at the time, and I'm probably swaying more towards Eagle Moss now, but at the time, they were so much more interesting than the static Eagle Moss figurines. But Eagle Moss being, I mean, they're pretty defunct now, but I know that one particular merchandiser has managed to get hold of some of the unproduced figures and is now being able to sell those, so I'm looking forward to them. They have a much wider range. There are characters that Character Options will never be able to make as figures, but, you know, I can have little representations, and really, and it won't come as any surprise, really, I got the bug for Eagle Moss when they released Mestor. I thought, I've got to have that. And then a few months down the line, they released the Borad, and the Borad is another of my favourite Doctor Who villains. I think he's so well performed and so brilliantly realised on screen. And that's really where the bug for the Eagle Moss stuff came
this
from.
This Borad here?
That chap there in hardback, yes. The late Robert Ashby.
Indeed.
So that's when I started thinking, you know, I really want to start getting more. To begin with, I was looking for the figures that I knew that Character Options will never do. And then I threw that to one side and just bought as many as I could and carry on doing now. And I'm delighted that this particular supplier has managed to get hold of stuff that we thought was not going to be released when Eagle Moss went out of business last year. But I've now, I don't know whether you can see, I've got Bilal and the Mavellan, which came out very recently. And fingers crossed, I'm hoping to get hold of a Black Guardian figure, because I was really looking forward to that one. And although I'm no expert on the merchandise, I think I'm pretty confident that the Black Guardian has never been released as a figure. That Fine Art Castings never did him. Harlequin Miniatures never did him. Dapol didn't. Character Options won't, I don't think. So to have a mini Valentine dial on my bookshelf is something I'm really looking forward to.
I think it's great that you know, these companies release you know, all of these the creatures and you know, the aliens like this, and you know, there's other shows like you're saying, Peter. You know, Character Options. They it's just not viable for them to make some stuff. So imagine if that was the only, you know, range that was making toys. You know, that you know, we'd all be out there going, oh, you know, I love that character. There's no toy of it and stuff. And you know, it's like you know, but going back to the Marvel stuff, you know, there's so many hundreds of different characters in there, and some of them are never going to get made. Certainly, they can't do them, and they're too, you know, niche. So when something like, you know, the Funko range, you know, comes out with something, you know, like I really like Black Cat, the Spider-Man anti-hero.
You put a call out for that because your comic got destroyed, wasn't it?
It's just grim. But one of the twins puked on a load of my books the other week.
Right. And, see, I saw your tweet and I laughed. I know I should have felt sympathy. I'm sorry, but I laughed. And then I felt some sympathy afterwards, and then I laughed again, harder.
She got into bed, and she was going, I feel funny, and then I said, okay, quick, get up, and then it was too late, and my Black Cat one went, which interestingly that book is now £60 That's just why I can't find it anywhere. One of my Elita books was destroyed. My 13th Doctor DWM collection was destroyed. My Art of Bayonetta, which is a video game, that was destroyed.
Oh my goodness,
and,
Jeff! Really? Was this proper projectile vomiting going on?
And a book by Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead that I hadn't read. And Ali was like, my wife was like, you could clean them. And I was like, that's not happening. So they just got put in a bag and thrown in the wheelie bin. So that was
brought back a very, very traumatic memory, actually, because I remember at one point, it must have been in the early 90s, I took a whole pile of Doctor Who magazines into the garden to read, and forgot all about them and left them there overnight. And there was a downpour, and it just destroyed a significant number of those Doctor Who magazines, and I must get round to rebuying them as well at some point. Because I've just I moved house 10 years ago, and of course I've still got boxes that I've still not been through, and I'm only just getting round now to cataloguing the magazines, and there are so many that are missing. So I'm already looking on eBay for ones that are pretty cheap, that I can then fill those gaps of to me, the golden years, sort of like from the ones that start with Sylvester McCoy and then go through until when they changed format, when Christopher Eccleston became the Doctor, and it became that much thicker, glossier paper.
It had a spine on it then, didn't it?
It did. That's right. I need to fill in. I need to fill in the gaps in that collection.
But that was another one that was funny. Like I said, I thought, well, I'll go and find one of the, replace the Black Cat book. It cost me £8 or something, and it was, 55, 60 quid on Amazon and out of stock everywhere else. And I was like, why is it out of stock? And you could get all the others in the series. No. So
just
weird.
That one particular. That's terrible, isn't it? So Peter, has it become a bit of a collecting obsession now, filling the holes in the novels range and the magazines and things?
Oh, it's not become an obsession. It's been an obsession for a very, very long time.
It's always all right. I was just trying to be polite about it, I thought I'd open the window for you, but
no, I think it did when I decided to start the marathon, and I realised that I had substantial gaps in that collection. A few years ago, I actually managed to plug the gaps in my Missing Adventures collection, because going back 3 or 4 years, I thought, I'll go through all of the Missing Adventures, because there's no story arc to them. You can basically pick them up and read them in any order, with 1 or 2 exceptions. So I plugged the gaps in that, and I was really happy with that. And then, as I say, I decided I was going to start this marathon, and then I was only going to do the Virgin books, and then people start talking about the 8th Doctor Adventures and the BBC past Doctor Adventures. I thought, I've got some of them somewhere, because I do remember buying a few of them at the time. And again, it was ones that had returning villains. So I had both of John Peel's Dalek ones, for example, and I had Illegal Alien and stories like that. So I thought, I'm now going to have to start collecting these, aren't I? Because I thought, after I've finished the Virgin ones, where do I go from there? And I did not expect to complete my collection, within, I think it was 8 or 9 months. I'd got really the last one that I needed. That's why I'm eating beans on toast for dinner every night. But at least I've got them, because it's one of those. I think when you're looking for certain items and they come up, and you think, if I don't buy them now, are they going to come up again? I mean, the lung barrow incident. I saw it for £200. I thought, am I going to see it for £200 again? Probably, but I'm not taking the risk.
No, do you know, that's something
I bought that. And then that got me wanting to fill in some of the gaps in my annuals collection. So for the first time ever, because I remember the annuals used to pop up. We're going back to those collectors' fairs I was telling you about. The annuals used to pop up quite regularly, with the exception of the Troughton ones. They were the ones that when you saw them, they used to be £25, £30, and a 9-year-old can't afford that. So I've never ever owned any of the Troughton annuals, but over the past year I've managed to find all 3 of them at relatively good prices. I mean, the first one I actually managed to get for £85, which is quite a good price, because most of them, the Troughton ones, are in 3 figures. And the other Holy Grail Going back a long time now, and I hope I'm not boring you with these reminiscences. No, we were at a collector's shop in Holyhead on Anglesey during a holiday, and I just finished being an undertaker, and I was about to start my teacher training. And we went into this collector's shop, and my dear late mum said to me, there was the Pink Pertwee and another annual. I can't remember which one it was, but I already had that one. I didn't have the Pink Pertwee. And when we asked how much they were, he would only sell them as a pair, and he said, you can have them both for £50. And Mum said, I'll get them for you. And I said, no, Mum, £50, far too much.
Too much. Yeah.
Of course, now the Pink Pertwee is like £250, £300. So I have managed to get a copy of that finally in my collection, having turned it down for £50 all those years ago, and I'm delighted to have it because it's a beautiful, beautiful artifact. And I fully intend to read them as well, because I think there's a beautiful, naive charm about those early annual stories, and the comics in TV comics, things like that.
They're Doctor Who, but not quite Doctor Who as we know it, almost.
Yes, and I rather like that because it's Doctor Who not written by fans, which is what we've become used to.
They're literally just writing this thing to fill an annual.
Now, to read stories that are not written by Doctor Who fans is really, really quite charming.
But what you said there, Peter, about you saw it and you thought, well, I better get it, and maybe I was talking to you about this, Paul. Certainly, someone. But when something goes up, and it's going to be a limited edition or something, you like. There's not really a you can't go maybe I'll have to think about it and come back to that in a couple of weeks. It's not going to be that, and it's like concert tickets.
It's stressing. I have the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other, telling me buy it. You want it, you gotta have it. It ain't gonna come up again, sunshine. Oh, it will. Don't you need to spend your money on something more adult? You need to spend it on your children and put food on their tables and clothes on their backs. Nah, son, the children need that. Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. No, you don't.
There's a really good example of that. Not a fortnight ago, and the boiler needed servicing at the same time as a hardback of The Wheel in Space was up.
So you went cold for a while?
No, because I opted for the boiler, and then when I had a change of heart and thought, well, I'll get both, it had already gone. Because I think the Wheel in Space hardback is really well, is highly sought after, and now he's going to show off again now.
But I had it with concert tickets a while ago. Someone said, maybe I'll see if I can get a better seat.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Lovely.
You've got to go for these things. You
do. Actually, I think this one's quite. Maybe not this particular one. Tywin Irani first edition tends to get, but there was a version of this cover with the tetraps printed the wrong way round.
Right. Yes.
So essentially, they're like that with the Doctor Who logo at the top. That is quite rare, I believe, and because they realised their mistake and pulled the run.
Was somebody who's obviously got quite a lot of the hardbacks. Was there a particular point in the range when they stopped doing the hardbacks?
I don't know, actually. I mean, I've
never seen Silver Nemesis or Remembrance. I've never seen a hardback version of those.
There seemed to be, when season 22 was out, I think they pretty much did one as they were published in paperback. They did a hardback version of it. So I've got a few from that, and I've got a few from a few. So I've also got actually, what's that one? Yeah, I've got the Mysterious Planet, and I think pretty much the other ones as well. So that's the Trial of the Time Lord thing. But they didn't do every title in hardback. So it's quite an eclectic collection. But my special one is actually that one there, the Planet of the Spiders, which is a 1970 something. When is it? Basically, it is, I believe, a first edition. Where is it? No, it's second edition, so it's not quite first edition, but yeah, 1975. Would you believe it? That's. I mean, I bought it in 1980 something or other, and it was pristine in Foyle's bookshop. in Tottenham Court Road. So you had to really hunt these things down. They, again, way pre-internet. But I was sort of obsessed about getting as many hardbacks as I could before they disappeared, and it would literally just be, you see one, you buy it. And I used to save up my dinner money, and I used to go without dinner at school so that I could go to a trip to London at the weekend, and then go to record shops, and then go into Foyles, buy as many Doctor Who books as I could afford, paperback and hardback, and that was me sorted then until I literally collapsed on the Northern Line from starvation.
Well, you asked me before about
obsessions
with collecting. In terms of the books, it started with the targets, and the prices now that the hardbacks are commanding. This used to be I'm not sure whether it still is, but this used to be the case with the paperbacks. So if you'll indulge one more collecting story, when the Who shop actually opened a branch for a short period of time in Liverpool in the mid-90s, and I went along there. It's because that's where I got to meet Elizabeth Slade, and it's where I got to meet John Pertwee, precious brilliant. Sophie Aldred, precious memories. And they obviously had a catalogue for their merchandise, and at the time I had quite a healthy collection of the Target novels, but it was only looking through their catalogue that I realised that certain titles at the time were highly sought after, because they were wanting, I think they wanted £50 for the Wheel in Space, and I thought, I didn't realise that was rare. They wanted over £20 for things like the Macra Terror and the Seeds of Death. So I thought, right, I want to start really plugging the gaps in the Target collection, of which there were quite a few at that time. And just after Christmas in 1995, I went into a second-hand bookshop here in Southport, and I walked in, and somebody had clearly sold to the shop every single Target book in the range. And they only wanted £1 per book. So in one fell swoop with my Christmas and birthday money, I was able to pick up the Wheel in Space, the Macra Terror, the Massacre, Ambassadors, everything that I needed for £1. And at one point,
you've been lucky with getting them, haven't you?
The Wheel in Space for £1, which was another really good find. But I don't know that. I know the Wheel in Space does, but I don't know that the paperback Targets command even the prices that the Who shop were asking for them, 26 years ago. But the Wheel in Space does seem to have retained its value somehow. I know, because the print was low, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it that or the Cyber? I think some of them were destroyed in a fire at the factory, were they? Was that Cybermen?
Yes.
No, I think it was the Wheel in Space.
Yes.
Yeah.
A warehouse fire.
And they didn't print anymore. That was it, was it? They were shorting their orders, and they stopped the run after that. So yeah, I do have the Wheel in Space. I've got it in paperback somewhere. I really need to actually catalogue my Doctor Who books, because look at that, there you go, that's it. Because do you know what I bought the Left-Handed Hummingbird off eBay a few weeks back, thinking I don't have that, and actually I bought it because I saw it on your tweet as well. I think you had some Kate Ullman stuff that you were reading. I thought, I need to, and I knew I didn't have Sleepy, so I bought Sleepy, and I thought, I haven't got the Left-Handed Hummingbird either. I bought that, and then lo and behold, I've now got two left-handed hummingbirds, and I've got two Sleepies as well. So it's like, I just bought these things on eBay for like, I don't know, 10, 12 quid each. And I obviously had them, and I'd forgotten I had them, and they've been at the back of my shelves for years. So I need to pull them all out and just literally do a spreadsheet or something and know what I've got. Same with the BBC books, the Eighth Doctor books as well. I've got multiples of those. I'm like, why have I even got 2 or 3? Why do I have to? I must have, even back in the day when my memory was better than it is now, still gone out and bought 2 copies. Gallifrey Chronicles. I've got like 3 of those. Like, why would I want 3?
Well, you do forget. I mean, I was doing a little bit of sorting out the other day, and I did this tweet which has had quite a lot of replies. I was amazed because I'd forgotten that I even owned a copy of Doctor Who: The Unfolding Text, which I thought was really quite an obscure title, and yet lots and lots of people remember it.
Good,
but I had completely forgotten that I even owned it. I was going through a drawer where things had been shoved when I moved house, and there it was.
Yeah.
You do forget when you've got such an extensive collection.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you need to catalogue it, yeah.
You do need to catalogue it. But I'll tell you what, right? When I finally shrug off this mortal coil and all these hardback Target books and the paperbacks and all the rest of them, right? I'm going to stipulate in my will that they do not go to be sold for £1 each. And I want full market value for these. Full colour. They go to Sotheby's at least as a minimum starting point, and they go for auction.
I know I need to do something like that because I currently have a teenage son who has no interest in Doctor Who whatsoever, and he would not understand the value of any of this. And I've thought exactly the same thing. Do not sell for less than £200 and do a full catalogue.
Exactly.
I will have to do it someday.
I know.
I tell my kids if they don't watch Doctor Who or if they don't like Marvel or whatever, just find somewhere else to live.
Your kids are going to have issues when they're older, mate.
But it won't bother me because at the rate they're going, they won't be living here. So
so I have to ask you, Peter, as the final question because I know things are cracking on a bit now. So your school children that you teach English to, and how do they get on with your obsession of Doctor Who then? Does it lead to lively debate in the class?
No, not really. The answer to this question is because one of the things I've noticed, I obviously get little bits of Doctor Who in every so often, but one of the things that I have really noticed is that amongst the children today, certainly the children that I teach, Doctor Who seems to have completely dipped in awareness. When the series came back in 2005, 2006, and I was teaching at another school, that's when you started to see the Battles in Time cards coming out and people talking about it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
And although it didn't have universal popularity, if you asked, I remember going on a trip to France, to Paris, and we left on a Saturday. And if I remember rightly, it was the Saturday when, just after the second part of that Daleks in Manhattan story had gone out. And I was sat on the coach, and all the boys, it was an all-boys school, all the boys behind me were talking about Daleks in Manhattan and the fact that they were going to miss Doctor Who that week and that they were going to have it recorded. You don't hear those sorts of conversations anymore. Not from my point of view in the school that I teach. It seems to have fallen out of public consciousness a little bit. But when Daniel Blythe came in a few weeks ago and he gave a talk to my Year 8s, a lot of his talk was themed around Doctor Who. And it certainly had their interest, mainly the classic series. It certainly held their interest in the clips that he showed, and a few of the pupils did buy his book Autonomy, which is the 10th Doctor story that he wrote with the Autons in. So there is a glimmering awareness of it, but it does seem to have dipped. There are not many. There are one or two pupils who I chat to who have got a real interest in the program, and they buy the classic series DVDs, and there's one lad in particular who, when the program is on, will stay behind at the end and he'll say, "Sir, did you watch last weekend's Doctor Who?" And we'll have a quick chat about it. That doesn't happen as often as it did going back to the early years of the revival. Had you asked that question 15, 16 years ago, the answer is a lot of the pupils knew about my Doctor Who obsession. Now the interest just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's that the interest in the show has waned, sort of, per se, but when it came back, people were, it was almost 20 years ago, we were all a bit younger, and then, Paul, we talked to people who were 8, 9, 10 when it came on, and now obviously they're, pushing 30 or something, and then the kids now who are 8, 9, 10, like my son, it's a totally different world. He doesn't. Doctor Who isn't on as regular as it was, and streaming is everywhere, and video games and stuff, and so it may not be that the show just doesn't appeal to them anymore, but just that world is just there's so much these days. Honestly, 20 years ago, we had 5 channels on Sky, which was, mostly a lot of nonsense. So, it'd be great to see if it kind of
It's a good point, actually, Jeff. Yeah, I think,
honestly, I do believe that is a factor in, people say, the show's viewing figures have fallen in recent years, and yeah, they have. But then when you see, another show that's, perceived as a hit has actually had less viewers, and then you think, but
and it's cancelled after 2 seasons.
It's cancelled after 2 seasons. And if you think that, say, at any one time, the number of people in the UK viewing stuff is 20 million, for example, that's the aggregation across the 5 main channels. There's still 40 other million people who are watching streaming, watching video games, watching Blu-rays,
YouTube, mostly.
YouTube, right? Yeah, or sitting on their phones looking at TikTok stuff, and the world is totally different to what it was, and I don't think it's quite right to say, that the show's ratings have fallen, therefore it's bad and no one likes it anymore.
We weren't saying that, Jeff.
No, I know, but I'm just, you see stuff online, don't you? And I don't think it's not right, because it's different. When you read, actually, The Mandalorian only gets 2 million viewers a week on Disney Plus in the UK. Well, that's less than Doctor Who gets per week, but that's a global smash. So, it's things have changed, and the audience for it isn't what it was, but it's not to say that it's failing when you actually look at the bigger picture. And well, it can't be failing. Why would Disney come on board? They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it if they were like, oh yeah, it's a good show, we like that. They just simply wouldn't do it.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes, because I think actually I do think actually having Russell T Davies and Disney and Bad Wolf kind of steering the next stage of Doctor Who's evolution actually is a good thing, because,
it is. Yeah.
Russell knows how to work the current landscape of TV. He's always had that knowledge, that kind of insight and the ability to use it to the advantage of his of his TV shows and things, the stuff he writes, his creativity. That's what I was going for. And I think with Disney behind him, who have now got knowledge of the streaming landscape, it's going to be interesting, because Disney have now got a few years showing the kind of peaks and troughs of what's working and where it's working and what times of day and with whom. And it's going to be interesting, because I think actually now is a really good time to switch on the steering lights to navigate that particular landscape. And Doctor Who has as much chance as any of the other franchises right now of gaining its share of that space. It'll be interesting to sit here in about 5 years' time and look back on all the big franchises and see Doctor Who included within them, at least at the same level, when you're talking Marvel stuff and Star Wars, and probably even Lord of the Rings as well, which kind of seems set to move into that space. Star Trek, again, on Paramount, massive on streaming now. So interesting times ahead.
It is.
But how do you gain a loyal audience?
Very, very hard.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Very hard.
Yes, indeed. As we go away and ponder these very, very questions. I don't know where I was going with that. I just felt it had to be said.
No, I don't either. I'm going to just let you do that.
It's getting late now. It is. Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun talking to
it's been
Peter,
really good.
a.k.a. Mestor the Magnificent. If you haven't checked out Mestor the Magnificent on Twitter, please do so, because Peter, you've got an absolute wealth of really enjoyable tweets out there, and I really enjoy seeing them popping up on my little timeline with the little pictures of your coffee and your little figures and your books, and it's always genuinely always a joy to see what book you're reading next.
Oh, nobody's more surprised than I am that it appears to have generated, I wouldn't say, a huge amount of interest, but the interest with a certain core group of people who I'm regularly interacting with. It's just wonderful, and it's
nice
also,
to talk to like-minded.
Given me the impetus to keep doing it. I mean, at the moment, my enthusiasm for it is undimmed, and we're about a year and 4 months into me doing this, the actual reading marathon, and it's allowed me to interact in a way that I hadn't been doing before, because there is this interest in the books, and it is nice for people to be asking, so what's coming next, and or potentially disagreeing with certain views that I've expressed about certain books. And I think it's also been good fun to do it in the limited characters that you've got.
That's
so much
challenge,
feelings about a book, in a very, very short space of time. And I couldn't resist as well, with it being the 60th, I couldn't resist on January the 1st starting a Classic Who marathon as well, and just posting a few of my thoughts on that, some of which have been quite controversial, and I've rather enjoyed that.
It's part of the fun of it, though, isn't it?
I'm looking at you. But it's been really good fun, and brilliant. As somebody who has never felt particularly confident on social media, I've done YouTube for a very long time, but in terms of the actual creative process, that takes so much longer. I've been really, really flattered with the interest that the stuff that I'm tweeting about has gained, and so I look forward to posting each daft thought, or whatever it is that comes into my mind about the books or Doctor Who in general. So I'm very grateful that it's gained the interest, and I really do thank you for inviting me onto this podcast this evening, because it's something I've never done before, and it's just really good to be able to talk about a mutual interest.
Yeah, but that's
why we do it, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, it is. That's one of the good things of social. You may well have a small interest, relatively, but there's always going to be other people out there, and who'll share that with you and fire it up. And I hope you pick up a few more followers after we put this out, and they tune into what you're talking about.
It's been
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been really good.
You. Likewise.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm going to call you Mestor. Mestor the Magnificent, everybody. Hooray!
Well, that was brilliant as always. We love talking to other fans and finding out, about doctors that they've met and how they discovered the show and their obsessions. So we said this before, and we've got a few people that have DM'd us. But if you'd like to feature on a future episode, because this one, our last episode, the tweet was really well received. We've had a really good number of downloads on it, and a really good response to it. So I think there's people who they would just want to talk about Doctor Who and do it in a positive space, and have a good time about it. So drop us a message, and we'll start lining some more people up for the next one.
Yeah, it's always good fun. Although there will come a time when I contradict myself.
Will there?
Yeah, because I'll say something in one and then it'll be totally contradicted in the next one.
Actually, I did notice that you said the same thing about some books in two of the different chats.
Did I?
So look out for that, same story. Goodness. But then I've probably repeated the same story in multiple things as well. So
things changed because there was a bit of time difference betwing some of those chats.
There was, that's true. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to tell by the length of particularly my hair.
Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? I wore a different hat in each one. I was very careful to do that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for listening. Hope you
everyone.
enjoyed it. Look out for the next one.